Fucking
Yeah,
dumb.
sorry.
All right.
Mm,
It
I'll lay off
is
after
April
Max.
the 1st, 2017. Things are happening. It is April Fool's Day. There's been a bunch of good jokes, and anime is on Steam. That's not a joke. Lots of things are happening.
That
But
is a joke, but it's like a different kind of joke.
we're here today to talk about the winter season of anime and everything that went on for the shows that aired from January until the end of March. The winter season's just about finished up now. We only have a couple of straggler shows left. So we're going to go show by show and kind of talk about what was good about the show, what was not so good about the show, and really who the show's targeted towards or who should be picking up these shows if you missed them. So I do want to make some concessions because it is pretty late for our European members here. So, Crit, you had a couple shows that you wanted to get the ball rolling with.
Basically, Aka is the first show.
All right. So
Aka
what is
13
Aka? That was a military sort of political
No, not in
thriller.
the least.
Oh.
Aka 13 Territory Inspection Department. A lot of people describe it as a political thriller, but I would describe it more akin as a political jigsaw puzzle. The show doesn't really have an obvious selling point, so in a lot of cases, I'm just here for its suave, chill style and presentation, and basically the clever way it handles exposition. And that's basically the entire appeal of Aka here, right there. If you can't roll with that, there's not much to watch it for.
That's
To me, that was more than enough because I roll with the chill style. It doesn't require emotional investment or an emotional reaction. So, even if the ending was just as calm and whatever twist it had, it never made anything too big out of it. I just didn't mind the entire way through. So it's a chill ride, and every single time it was like a breeze with and an experience that you feel like you're just slouching on your couch, drinking fine wine.
that's that's something. I don't know. I'm
That's
That
not.
was
basically
so
Aka for
European
me.
right there.
Yeah.
No, I'm not Western European. I'm Eastern European. We have rakia here.
Wine European.
Wow, okay. That sort of explains what I would think the negative side about Akka would be. Is I I don't know, did it even get to the point where it explored any themes or said anything really?
Mm,
Oh god, fucking
don't
die.
be a selfish asshole,
Uh,
It's
or
the
everyone will get you for it.
I think the themes are a little obfuscated. I don't think that was necessarily what it was going for. Um, I personally like the show because of the one, the style, and two, the actual story it told was really fascinating. I do agree with the statement. It's very fine wine, I guess. Um, it takes an adjustment period, and you have to. It's a show that doesn't really want to have you hold. It doesn't want to hold your hand at all. You have to pay attention a lot, and like, I don't know. I can totally get why a lot of people wouldn't like it because it's a show that revolves all around anti-climaxes, and Aka's a weird bird. It's very weird.
That's why I said it doesn't have an obvious selling point.
yeah.
And to me, it was also like a weird comfort show. It made me. It was cerebral, but at the same time, it was just comforting.
Hmm.
I I know I talked about this earlier, and I wish Kura was here, but I described it originally as it's an Iyashikai almost,
Uh-huh.
political thriller, which obviously those two genres are just about as far apart as you can get, but it was all about selling the style and the tone of this cool, deep political thriller, like getting you into that mindset without trying to like play it up, if it
Yeah.
made any sense.
It does make sense.
Yeah. Okay, here's a good analogy. Switzerland. Switzerland is known for its way of handling authority. Like every region is given a certain independence. Basically, every citizen, every region can have its own individual referendum, and the citizen has a voice that matters and isn't just a voting number, just plus one. Now you are one citizen out of hundreds in a single remote region, and even just dozens depending on where the region is. So in some cases, that is a good analogy for the way Aka shows itself, to where every district is given a character that has adapted to the culture and has become a part of it. And they do show the different mindsets of every region and how it affects people. That is something
Well,
so easily dismissed.
I think one of my big issues with the show, though, was how non-interconnected all the various regions are, and the regions more existed as a sort of
Showcase.
not even a showcase. It's more like like a theme park of all of them. And I mean, if you like look at the geography and everything in the map, it doesn't work at all if you're thinking. And they all were very not connected at all. That was my biggest issue. Is it talked a lot about how they're all interconnected, but it didn't really show it very much.
They're interconnected for the people, while the regions themselves and the way they are characterized, you might as well be walking through an interdimensional portal.
Okay. So, with it having sort of this off kilter kind of taste that you have to subscribe to, who do you think would really enjoy this show?
Oh, that's really tough.
Yeah, especially for something like this, right?
Yeah, because it's very emotionally distant. It doesn't engage you directly. It just wants you to follow where it's going for, and you just basically have to trust it. You're either on board with its style or not.
I mean, I think there's a certain sort of niche that does like it. I mean, I liked it, obviously. I know Kara liked it. I know quite a few other girls on one of my other servers who liked it. Um, I guess it really just can you buy into the conceit of the atmosphere and the almost larger than life but not really characters in it. It's very character driven, I think I would say, even despite how on the low everyone is.
It,
Um,
the way you
I
make it
haven't
sound, it
I
makes
haven't
it.
seen any other than Natsume Ono's other works, so I can't really talk about that. But from what I understand, she has a very chill sort of style to it. So
You make it sound like Aria without the like preeminent happiness.
yes, I
Yeah,
that's yes.
that's a good way to describe it. It's very committed to its fiction, but it doesn't hold that emotional comfort.
Uh, that's weird. So it's a show you can never recommend to anyone.
Except they're a psychopath like me who doesn't give a shit about the emotional engagement.
Okay, that's a good segue into the next thing you wanted to talk about, which is
Yojo
another show.
Senki,
Yeah.
the
Um,
saga of Tanya the Evil.
Give a brief summary of the plot here.
Before
because it-
before you go, I just want to say, Aka, at least from the first episode that I saw, I get what everyone's saying, and I think it's a little bit dismissive to say that Aka is a show that you would never want to recommend. I think there is a charm to it. I remember Kura arguing about the nuances of its politics, where unless you're interested in that the unless you're interested in the discussion itself, it's not for you. But I don't want you to end it off a note saying that it's a show that you would never recommend. Let's try not to be dismissive of shows from this point onward. I just think it's in bad taste.
I would gladly recommend Aka to people, by the way. So
Oh yeah, I would also recommend Aka, but it's just an inherent niche. And just as a last pointer, Aka's politics makes real life politics look barbarous in comparison.
What do you mean by that?
there's
Whatever conflict Aka had, it resolved it without any. How can I put it?
there's a little
Aggressive, without any aggression.
there's one instance of violence, but besides that, the whole show is completely pacifist, and it takes a very blasé, uniform take to the sort of political infighting and stuff. Like there isn't really any grand like haha we got you misdirection sort of things. I mean, there is, because that's sort of inherent in the genre, but it's all really low key and less about brokering and stuff, and more about just people talking. And it doesn't have the grandiose factor that most political thrillers that I'd say is almost inherent in the genre try to pull off, and that's what makes it really interesting.
It sensationalizes nothing, and that contributes to its chill atmosphere and tone throughout. It never betrays that. Okay.
Moving on.
Moving on to Yojo Senki, or as Funimation has translated it, the saga of Tanya the Evil.
It's just a stupid name.
It's a pretty stupid show,
but it
though,
works
isn't it?
because Tanya is the show, essentially.
Yeah, I would say they could have gotten rid of the first and just gone Saga of Tanya.
Yeah. The description that goes around is psychotic Lolita in World War 1.5, which is more or less accurate. But H is not a Nazi because Nazi Germany didn't come until right before World War II.
I mean, I don't know. It's definitely on that wearable.
Don't get the military and the history people upset. Trust me.
I mean,
What?
technically,
I
it's.
know my military and history. Don't you worry yourself there, buddy.
I think what
Okay,
Tom's
you fight with them.
what Tom's trying to
but-
say is that it's technically not Nazi Germany, but it invokes a lot of things, even in our uniform design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
The
that's
uniform
because
design is really clear.
I mean, if we talk about it, the biggest issue is that people conflate anything Prussian with Nazi, like Nazism, which is just, I mean, it's understandable how the common public see it, but there's a lot more division within the German history and style,
Mhm.
which I feel at least needs to be mentioned, even if we don't need to go into the detail.
Yeah,
just
pretty much.
just to give a summary here, it's a salaryman who's reincarnated in a lolly magic person, right?
He's reincarnated from birth, and he joins the military at the age of 9.
And then he has,
in this case.
and then she fights against God.
So basically, pretty much what happened is that he is pretty much an asshole businessman who basically is ruthless, does things by the book, and is rising to the top of this corporation. In the process of firing this guy comes back, pushed in front of a train, and he dies. Well, before he dies, he ends up meeting Being X, or God. And through that point, basically, God puts him in a situation where he is like, where the idea is that putting him through strife will then have him gain faith in God. However, this guy is still being extremely spiteful and is trying to do everything in spite of God, like while moving through this world. And so he's doing everything he can. He's being as loose as he can to find success in this world in spite of God and not believing in God and trying to undermine God at every single turn.
So it does do something interesting with that whole fighting against Being X thing.
To a
Yes,
point.
in which he is probably one of the most like militant anti-theists you will ever find.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But to me, that's not the entire hook. That's just a hook for the show. To me, it's the pleasure of seeing basically the sociopathic mindset and how it succeeds.
Cool.
Yeah. Think White Yagami, but if he was a military strategist and a military commander that succeeds and is brutally efficient.
So it justifies him? The show ends up supporting his point of view?
Would I be able to sort of chime in here and sort of give my take on the show?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I will say one of the biggest strengths of this anime is that there's lots of various things going on into it that can really sink your teeth into. And so even though it is sort of a tangent event against this guy going against God, it's actually done in an extremely well manner. And I have to give the show a lot of props, in which it's written by someone who has at least like put thought into it. And it actually is like a pretty, like, it is a person who actually like looked into like what God actually is in a theological sense, and then sort of getting this fight here. So there's a lot more going on into it. And I got to say, that's where the strength of the anime really lies. If you have to really go on visuals, it's not too impressive. And even then, the story is decent, but it's not something to write home about. But what it is that there's so much hidden knowledge within this anime that it is extremely, like, it's just breathtaking to me. In which I will say that no other anime better understands war than this one, in which there's so many clear allusions to actual historical events that you can go through and actually just like point to like where this is going from. One example is that the entire anime, like the reason he joins the military and does what he does is to try to move up through a Prussian general staff system. And so, I mean, you could spend a lot of time discussing what a Prussian general staff system is and how it works. However, when you look into it, like what, you don't need the explanation because he is basically doing everything that it does. And so the author actually knows the history they were talking about. The author understands the history of World War II. The author understands various points. And that's something to me is just amazing, is that there's a person who actually has bothered to like look into the world, to research and understands like the history and bringing that into the story. And that's why everything works so well, is because there is a lot of historical credence or historical fidelity. Granted, there are some points where there are some interesting mistakes or oversights. One of the clear ones is that they try to talk about envelopment and then they bring in the Battle of Austerlitz, which granted is one of the greatest battles in like human history, and Napoleon gets lots of props for being successful. However, that wasn't a battle of envelopment. That was a battle where he ended up splitting the Prussian and Russian lines, and then was able to sort of destroy one in piecemeal. And it was an awesome battle. Kanai was more of envelopment, but that was just a minor oversight. But at least it shows that this person actually knows about Kanai, knows about Austerlitz. It has like an understanding of what they even mean. And so that's one reason why I'm just gushing about this anime.
Yeah. Well, I am gushing over it solely from a psychoanalytical perspective, where Tanya's entire mindset is that of a controlling pragmatist. A person who seeks control in all aspects of their life. And that's what she means by achieving a leisurely life where security security in every sense, be it financial or just survival, is secured for her in this case. So she uses every tactic for efficiency on a mental basis from her previous life as a salaryman, now as a military officer. And it's shown to work. She is shown to know military strategy and how to employ it on the field itself, where tactics are much more required. And it's just fascinating to me on every level. Even at the end of the show, she shows that raw rationality of a strategist is not enough to predict a war, to battle against a war or during a war. Every moment should be used, even when you feel like you should lay back and enjoy respite and victory. And that just shows even the depth of understanding the human unconscious the author exhibits. So it's not just a fun show as an action flick, but also shows an innate understanding of psychology as well.
That's cool, and I think that's a lot more depth than a lot of people looking at this show will really see from the outside.
Or a sign.
Yeah.
We do overrate it, but it's just that genuine. It's a passion project for this new studio, and the effort is obvious. The director is doing his damnedest to make it work, even when the time basically doesn't allow for it.
Right.
So there actually is another point I'd like to point on to the psychological aspect. And so this is another really nice touch in that what you see with the characters is that the main character, even though she's been living in this world, doesn't really understand the world, or doesn't really even understand the people around her, in which she gets into most of her trouble by making poor judgments or she makes faulty assumptions. And so one of the problems is that the people around there really do have a different understanding of the world. And so it's the best way to describe it is that if you actually took a person from like 1913, 1914, that time period, the idea of a national struggle and the idea that it is your obligation to fight for it would be just common sense. But in the like 2013, which she lived her original life as a salaryman, that wasn't. And so it is really interesting to actually show just there's some very just like deep assumptions between the characters that just doesn't really translate. And I think that it is always a nice touch because again, like he gets his way about half the time. The other half of the time things go wrong.
Well, that's pretty cool, and just the way they did a period piece in that regard sounds to be very accurate and very neat.
That's about it for Yojo Senki.
I was about to say, does anybody want to have any sort of negative thoughts on that show? I know the character design was criticized a lot, and it looked frankly ridiculous in a lot of cases.
The
It
advertising was
works,
just all
though.
over the place. That's
Yeah, I
all
mean,
it was to me.
I only watched one episode and I thought the first episode was horrifically dull. And basically all the stuff that you guys are talking about why the show is good wasn't in the first episode, which I think is kind of a failure.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought as well. But
The first episode was a bait.
No, the first episode was fine, but again, it was basically there just trying to establish the setting.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I won't say it's nothing impressive, but it's not necessarily that bad. The one thing I will say is that, god damn, the CGI was freaking garbage at certain points. Like it was just like breathtaking, like how some of the anime looked visually.
Oh, we have
And
a bad
I agree the
CGI
character
anime.
designs could have been a whole lot better. Like the manga looks so much nicer. Like the visual novel illustrations look so much better than what the anime looks like.
Okay,
And
fun fact. The author requested those redesigns.
Okay, well, I mean, whatever floats their boat, I still don't think it looks that good. However, I also want to give props because I think like Funimation did an extremely good job with the dub, and I mean, it's just yeah, I pretty much been watching dubs, haven't had a chance to see the end of it, but it is I won't say it's nothing stand out, however, like an extremely solid performance, and I would definitely recommend watching it dubbed. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I don't think you'll lose anything from it. Just
I
want to
can
throw that
also,
out there.
yeah, I can also vouch for the dub. I originally watched the first 2 episodes dubbed, and the second episode basically sold me. And the performance by Monica Rio as Tanya is spot on.
She's great.
Yeah, she even
Yeah,
wrote
she
part
always
of the
tends
script.
to do good work.
Yeah, she even does her own one-liners, which is even more hilarious to me.
However, like I will say that, but beyond that, like I won't say any other. Well, even her performance isn't particularly inspired, and which it is sort of more of the same. It's just that more of the same like works, and so I won't like because one thing I want to sort of point out here is that I also want to sort of do like best dubs of the season. I will say solid performance, but not best dub.
All
But
right, all right,
yeah,
all right, all right. Well, calm down. No superlatives here. It's not our end of the year awards show. But I don't know. Does anybody have any other thing else they want to get out about Saga of Tanya the Evil? Yeah. Well, that's good. So recommended to fans of military history, period pieces, and also the psychotic mindset, and anyone who would enjoy a look into that.
A bit of edge is required in everyone's life. Come on.
All right. So I don't know. You want to segue? Does anybody have any burning things they want to go to, or you need a segue to something else?
I don't know.
No.
Saints here. Let them talk about fucking Sangatsu.
No, that will come with time. Let's go through the anime
Okay.
charts. Next
Well-
up is Akiba's Trip.
Where's Real?
Are we going in order for all of
What?
it?
Was Rush,
Well,
wasn't
no.
Rush the only person who liked Akiba?
Yeah, I didn't want to go in
I
order.
missed the first one.
I didn't want to
like the
go.
game. I like the game.
I didn't know there was a game, but I didn't want to go in
Game has,
order
like, nothing to do with
because
the show.
I just wanted to go on stuff people wanted to talk about. If there's
Well, we go through order and people speak up. So nobody has a comment on Akiba's Trip.
No,
It-
because Rush was the only one who watched it. Move on.
I mean, I watched like 2 episodes of it.
yeah,
It
Yeah.
was
It's like-
fine.
yeah, it seemed like an anime show.
Okay. Blue Exorcist Season 2.
Yeah, nobody watched that.
I have a friend.
I watched the first
who-
season.
See, this is why we shouldn't just go down the list because this is gonna be
Yeah.
half the shows right here.
Yeah.
I'm fine with
It's
that.
fine, just to be sure. Bang Dream.
What? Okay, who put you in charge?
When did Crit become the host?
Yeah, seriously.
All right, yeah, Crit, I'm gonna have to veto that because
Okay.
if you want to, I was gonna kind of segue onto other things that I know people have been watching, and
Demi-chan.
yeah, I was
my
about to
God.
say, Phaeton, you mentioned best dubs, and this was the one you were picking out for best dub, right? Okay.
So yeah,
Alright.
Interview with Monster Girls is freaking. It's a good show. I'm not gonna say it's the best show ever because it does have inherent structural problems, but I mean, you gotta deal with that. So the first thing to understand is that it is trying to be an extremely faithful manga adaptation, and so it is basically going to live and die off the manga adaptation, or live and die off the manga. However, it does do some interesting things in which it actually switches up a lot of the orders of the stories in order to try to make it fit better within the story. However, what that means is that you get a lot of slower jokes that are in scenes that are designed to work in a manga format that is then put into an animation, and it doesn't always work. The first 3 episodes at the very beginning was extremely strong, in which there was a lot more divergence and a lot more directorial intent to try to get something bigger out of it, but it sort of peters away at the end. And I mean, well, that's sort of be expected, even though it is unfortunate. I will say at the end of the day, it actually does have some really interesting characters. They're fun to sort of work with, and they're fun to watch. and it actually handles the topic with a lot of maturity. And so it is about people being different, but hey, it actually does things in a pretty nice manner and in a way that I think everyone would agree that that's a great way to sort of handle the situations, especially since it could be such a politically charged topic in this day and age. The
Yeah.
few things I want to actually highlight about this, which I think is one of the best things about this show, is that this is actually one of the first times it felt like a teacher was actually a good teacher. Where,
Oh,
the
man.
All right,
the
all
main
right.
character,
Let's.
would be such
Hey,
an
hey.
awesome high school teacher. Like you'd be like, dude, I really want to go to like Mr. Takahashi's class. Like this guy's freaking the bomb.
Yeah.
And so that's actually really nice where the characters actually feel like high schoolers. They're actually pretty immature. And the teachers actually feel like teachers, like they're actual adults. And it's nice to see that sort of transition, which is something that you just don't see too much in anime. And the dub is freaking amazing. The voice actress for Hikari really outdoes herself because, I mean, Hikari basically is the emotional and energetic center of the anime, and it needs a strong voice actress to voice her. And they did a really good job with the English dub. And right now, I think she is clearly the best main like English lead voice actor so far. And it would be hard pressed to see another dub actor or actress outdo her this year.
Sure.
Way
And
to open that kind of worms.
I mean, rude laughter aside, I can't disagree with anything that you said, Phaeton. I think you're mostly on par with just about everything on how that show came across and how it was supposed to be perceived. So I know there's a whole lot of people who would disagree though.
I thought this show was fucking awful. I will say the first episode's good, and then immediately it goes downhill. I mean, there's just so many. It's one of those shows where at first glance you watch it and it's like, oh yeah, this is like okay. But then the more you think about it, the more you really try and dig into what it's saying, and you realize how fucked up everything is. I know
Like?
I've talked about it before, but just the biggest issue the show has is it tries to be this thoughtful piece on using monster girls as an allegory for discrimination and minorities and
Right.
society, but it also tries to be a shitty harem. And I know you're trying to say this is why Takahashi is the worst part of the show, like because of this. Because I mean, you say he sounds like a teacher, but the show, it's not necessarily about the teacher that makes it bad. It's the way the other characters end up following him, I guess. And it tries to draw them all to him and do all these, like, I mean, half the scenes straight up, if this was in a harem comedy, it'd be the exact same. Instead it's platonic instead of romantic sexual, I guess, but it's still in the end a harem is a harem even if it's trying. But anyways, you get past that even.
Yeah, I like that duality though, the platonic harem on one side, and then actually trying to talk about these issues, like the girls
No.
get bullied in school, and then there's this scene where she confronts them, the vampire girl confronts them, and kind of tells them off, and that felt real.
That was an okay scene.
Yeah, and that was
that was my least favorite scene, but
I'm saying that's
I will
that
say-
one side. That's the other side that he's talking about. That Phaeton's looking at it through, and then yeah, there is this weird kind of let's look at these girls in this other way too, especially with the succubus.
That's not what I was necessarily talking about.
Oh,
What I mean with due to the way the harem genre works, there's an inherent lack of agency from the harem members because typically, and the show is all about their interactions with the central character, in this case Takahashi. And I mean, at the beginning, the show did a really good job of making sure that all of the various girls had agency, and that Takahashi was just this neutral entity that more or less existed to ask them questions and set things up. But as it went on, it was less and less about that, and the show seriously devolved into all the girls thinking about Takahashi and acting on Takahashi, and everything was about their relationship with Takahashi, or
Sure.
just how they interacted with him. And this is what usually, I mean, it's fine when Monster Musume or something does it like that, because I mean, you go into the show expecting it, but here's where the thoughtful allegory part plays into it, because it's trying to talk about how these people have agency, and how despite all of their issues, they're still people and they still deserve all the same sort of amount of respect, etc., etc. But then it doesn't actually treat that, and it completely rejects the premise with the other side of it, and it comes off really offensive, straight up.
Okay, so I will say that I can understand where that view comes from, but it is also something in which I feel that could just I don't give too much credence to. And so in the key, I guess one of the key things to look at it is that even though these girls are indeed like monster girls, and I mean that's the reason why they're sort of there, or demis as they prefer to be called, you can also tell that they actually have pretty well integrated within like society at large. And so there really isn't too many points of actual like there's no like endemic discrimination or systematic discrimination, and there's really no like real signs of major discrimination from the other characters.
Right, and I think
However,
that
again,
idea fell.
This
That
is something that is like even as a like minority myself, something you see is that when you go into an environment and you're in the minority, but nothing is really like you don't really have any problems, you like interact with everyone, there really isn't anything like you don't face any problems or any issues from the group, you still sort of have to recognize that you are like different, and there might be something particular that you need. And that's something I think which really sort of comes to Takahashi, in which one of the key points is that yes, they're the same as everyone else, but they also have their own needs, and it is one of the more critical like formative years in their life. And so like they don't really necessarily have anyone to turn to address their demi problems, which again would be something legitimate. And so
Except
I
they
don't.
do.
And so this is what.
who?
Oh yeah, what do you mean?
There's very specifically a demi teacher at the school.
Yeah, she's portrayed to be a bit more like another one of the students, though. She's not really all
And that is
together.
another issue with the show.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think what we can say about the show is that both of you are absolutely right, that it starts out talking about these issues, and that kind of side of the show is more in focus. And then there's just not enough prejudice against them, or there's not enough conflict there to buoy the show. And then with this lack of direction, it kind of devolves into, well, I don't know, the girls are cute. They kind of like, teacher, look, she's in the swimsuit, and like, okay.
I thought the single best scene in the show was in the last episode, actually, when Takahashi is monologuing.
Wait! I haven't seen it yet. Don't spoil.
Fuck you.
All right,
no.
you can
This
spoil.
This is
is
the end
gonna
of
be
season
spoils
spoilers.
It's gonna be spoils.
Yeah.
When Takahashi is sitting there in his office the last time with Hikari, and he's just monologuing about all these things. Oh, you should do this, that, and the other thing. And then at the end, Hikari's like, "Why did you tell me this? I'm a vampire. I've known this my entire life." And that was the one scene I thought where the show had enough self-awareness also to realize just how dumb the rest of the show what had been, and having there's no self-reflection upon the characters themselves. All the reflection until that point had come strictly from them talking to Takahashi and him monologuing, or later on in the series when the other students are monologuing whatever the idea or theme is of that episode. So
Sure. And I don't know whether
There's more. There's just my own perspective, which is balanced between the two. I don't actively hate the show for being a harem because I don't perceive it that way. But at the same time, there's not much to the show. I read the manga before the show in an hour, and that should have been a good indicator that there's not much to it.
What?
Oh, it's cute girls.
Well, okay, hold on. Well, first of all,
Mhm.
we're talking about the anime right now, not the manga. There's lots of bad manga that make for really good TV shows. So I mean,
Yeah,
that's
but again, that should have been an indicator to me that there isn't much substance I'm looking for. Therefore, the extending that into an anime where it takes just a much longer time to consume it wouldn't really benefit me much.
well, didn't I just say that the manga is completely irrelevant? Like the
No,
Okay, sorry.
I gotta agree with Crit on this one, in which the manga is fluffy, and especially if it's going to be a direct manga adaptation, like the anime itself is going to be fluffy. Now, I won't say it's not like you can just judge the anime on it, but it is a good indicator of what to expect.
Yeah, and I basically set my expectations too high from the high moments of the manga, which is basically a single conversation, and I was just waiting for it. And all the way just ignoring how dull it actually is. There's not much to it. Yes, it is about minorities, but it's never proactive about it. By proactive, I mean confrontational or aggressive. It doesn't want to send a message. It just wants to show it and just leave it be. It has no particular grand opinion on it. It doesn't have a message about it. It just shows it and leaves it there. And not only that, but it shows it in a very clinical way. The only dramatic moment is already mentioned here: the bullying. That's the most drama in the entire show. So, what does it say about minorities having trouble?
Right, and it could have been so much more, and I think that's where you want to leave that show
Pretty
at.
much.
well,
So,
Well, I mean, there was one other dramatic moment, which is episode 11, and that.
Yeah, but it
really
counters itself
encapsulated-
with that, which is just as amusing to me.
And that whole conflict in episode 11 is ultimately like the microcosm of everything bad about the show, because it all comes back to Takahashi and he's having the issue, and then in the end all the demis are the ones who have to sit there and talk about specifically their relationship with him and tell him he's like the best guy ever, and it just completely misses the point of the show.
unless the point of the show is how cool Takahashi is.
Sorry, leave
I
that to
think
my
you can
great
make
teacher
that
on
argument.
Izuka.
Well, I mean, I will say that understanding is a two-way street. And so, I mean, there is, like, and that's something which I will say, when you look at Takahashi, is that he sort of stands in for the everyman Japan, who's a little bit better, like Japanese man, who is a little bit better. However, I mean, when you are dealing with something that you never really encountered in real life, again, like, that's basically, he's a guy who just knows everything by the book, and his entire like purpose is verification. And to be fair, like, he does, like, his entire reason for talking to them so much is because he's just trying to sort of like mine information from the people. However, it is a pretty symbiotic relationship in which like everyone gets something good out of it, even though I won't say it's all necessarily like pure and lighthearted. There is other reasons for it, but you can't really fault a person for trying to understand something that they don't really understand, and trying to figure out what is real and what isn't, because he just knows rumors and innuendos, and he's trying to like basically cut through the fog and figure out like what is a vampire actually, what is a snow woman actually, what is a succubus actually. And I think we at least have to respect the pursuit of trying to understand the other person, who they actually are.
I don't think
that should form a
Takahashi.
relationship of codependence to where Takahashi becomes not a teacher or a scientist who is exploring truth, but a babysitter.
That, and I also think that there is a certain. I have nothing wrong with having a basic human everyman sort of character in a series like this for them to bounce off of, but it's the relative spotlight given to these characters. I mean, the series is about the Demis, but all the spotlight is on Takahashi, and that's the issue I have with it. I don't mind if he has a character arc or if he exists. That makes sense in the series, especially with the themes it wants to talk about. So,
Yeah.
Okay, just as another thing, just give us a doujinshi with Takahashi and Saki. That's all basically everybody wants. That's it.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, I think it'd be fine if we can move on. I mean,
Yeah, I think
we
we.
could probably do this for a whole lot longer. I don't know if everyone else is enjoying it though.
I think we've said everything that's relevant about Demi-chan. Yeah, I think you
I
can.
won. Let's move on.
You can make up your mind whether you will enjoy that show after hearing that.
Kimono Friends,
Okay.
Is this
the
what we're jumping
ultimate
to?
CGI show.
Oh boy.
See
No,
what-
we gotta let Contessa talk about this. We
Yeah.
let the people who like things talk about all the other stuff. So
Yeah, go ahead. Sell us on it, Contessa.
We're not going to talk about handshakers first.
we should totally talk.
You
about
want to talk
Handshakers.
about handshakers? Let's
Yeah,
talk about
and Fuka.
handshakers.
Okay,
Like we have to
let's
talk
meme
about
it up.
both of those.
Handshakers defining
why?
a new like
Low?
like
Motion
paradigm
six
in
cinematography, a
And
revolution in anime.
Yeah, and Nadir for just visual storytelling in general.
And
Hand-
novel storytelling.
Yeah, well, yeah, too. Yeah, that too. Handshakers is probably it's one of the very few series I've rated a 1 out of 10. It is not only the worst show of the season. It's not only in the talk for like top 10 anime mistakes to ever make it to the screen, but it's the only show which has the dubious honor of making me physically sick watching it and giving me a headache just by its colors and its shots. I think maybe there's some cool stuff with how they are able to move the camera, and I think that type of cinematography could be good in the hands of, I don't know, somebody like a Maniom who actually knows what to do with it. But this was not a quality product, and no one should watch this show.
No, you should watch it.
Everyone should watch
perspective.
one episode.
Okay,
Yeah, like I
Get-
said, it might
get some
be...
mates, get some fucking drinks, and
No,
put
no,
it on
no,
VR.
no, do not
Yes.
drink before you watch this. You'll throw up. No, go into it sober, and just like I said, like just marvel at the sheer incompetence. Really, like I said, it might be one of the worst looking things that's ever been made. It might be the most incompetently shot piece of visual media.
And that's the standout thing, but it's not like the writing is any better whatsoever.
Oh no, yeah, no, the writing is also terrible, but like it's kind of like a normal anime terrible. It's not like, I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
bad. I wasn't really paying attention though, so.
Like, we'll have the action. I remember one episode was just the action sequence, and then there was 12 minutes of them standing in a room talking, and there wasn't even any creative things with them standing in the room talking. It's just them standing in the room and talking, and they weren't even talking about anything relevant. It was astonishing.
Well, they needed that money to CGI the like four polygon room that they were standing in.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's offensive.
It sold 300 copies, the first volume, apparently, so...
Oh, sorry. We have people here that don't have a color.
I forgot my thought process.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much else to talk about. It's just really terrible. Really.
Right.
It's just
Yeah,
a
there's nothing to
meme,
talk
for
about.
fuck's sake.
All right, Taka, sorry, you weren't able to speak there. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hey,
Okay, I can speak now.
do you have
Yes.
thoughts on handshakers?
It's bad.
Is something you wanted to say, Tikas?
I wanted to say something about Demi-chan before, but I think I missed it.
Oh,
Unless you're up for
I think we
editing.
can go back on that
I'm
one at least.
not.
Give the man a chance to speak.
I am not up for editing, but yes, please say.
I just want to say that from what I've seen, the most serious issue, I think, was the one with the snow girl, where she overheard the girls in the bathroom talking about her.
Right. That moment we mentioned.
The bullying scene, yeah.
Yuki was also the best character. I will throw that out there.
Best girl was Saki for me, but
No,
then
not
again,
best
I have
girl.
a succubus
Not
fetish.
best girl. Best character.
Same thing.
Important
No.
distinctions.
No.
Important
No,
distinctions.
Whatever.
Okay. Yeah, but back to handshakers. Anybody want to say anything positive about handshakers?
Backgrounds almost look decent.
Right. Like I could
it's a-
see the promise in what they were trying to do. It just didn't happen.
I liked the visual direction of the backgrounds just a little.
If you didn't
man.
pay attention to them.
Apparently
and
I
thus,
No, they like I don't know. No, I think Contessa's. I think I agree with Contessa. Like there's something there, right? Like in like all of these like weird like glass buildings
Yeah.
and
It-
like all that kind of background stuff.
Coulda had
Obviously
a
not
style.
used to any sort of positive effect in the show, but there's something there.
should we mention the guy maxing?
That's not even
I-
Gynaxing. It's like just another level.
I'm ready to move on.
Okay, I missed the flappy
And
titties.
thus,
Yeah.
we move on to the next hit CGI show of the season.
Can we talk about good shows?
Yeah.
No,
We gotta
We're just talking about bad shows
We
right
gotta save that for
bad
last.
shows for now.
Or bad
Yeah.
shows. All right, we're coming right
Let's
up
talk
to.
about-
now. Alright, Fuka, they removed the meme, so now it's worthless.
Yeah, basically.
Fuka.
Yes.
The end.
That's all that matters. Chuck Chen is the only reason to watch that show. Go read the manga and get this.
Truck
all
Chen
that
did
matters.
nothing wrong. Truck Kun did nothing wrong.
Fuka
Yeah.
He only
also.
got cock blocked.
Yeah, that's the consensus of Fuka. No, let's move on. Anyone
Fuka-
actually
Fuka was a solid 3 out of 10. That
No, fuck you, Kai. 1 out of 10.
I mean,
I
okay,
gave it a
maybe
2.
yeah, maybe a 2. Maybe a 2. Yeah, it
I
was.
couldn't give it a 1 when handshakers existed.
Okay.
That's
and
fair.
thus,
0 out
There-
of
we move on
There's
to
there's
the next hit CGI show of the season.
The best-selling
Kimono
show of
Friends.
this season.
Do you Contessa, you wanna sell us on Kimono Friends, because it was something that I think at the start of the season everybody was writing off as some type of, CG oh boy. Monstrosity that wasn't going to have any value, but then over the course of the season we actually saw a lot of people like yourself kind of coming to support it.
Yeah, I only got on it around episode 4 or 5. So, and like I said, like you said, at the beginning of the season, I had no notice of the show at all. But I guess the best way to explain it is that it's the Japanese answer to My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. And I know what people are thinking, but
That's a bit kind of a praise.
I think in terms of both cultural impact, and I mean, you don't have to go far to talk about My Little Pony fans, obviously, but I also think that part of the reason My Little Pony and Kimono Friends got good is because they are ostensibly children's shows that went out of their way to actually have really smart writing and construct their show in a way that doesn't insult people, and it ends up picking up this this cult following, right? And I think if you look at I don't know, if you ask me like one thing it does just like really well, it's hard to say, but it's one of those shows that when you watch it, it's impossible not to be like smiling, laughing along with them in spite of everything. And then you get to the end and you cry. I don't put as much emphasis on the sci-fi, the weird darkness in the background as a lot of people, but that's all there in the story, but it's not presented in a way that like comes off as edgy. It's just it's sort of there and it's interesting and it affects what's going on, but it's very wholesome and genuine, which I know we hate the word genuine here now about it, and I don't know, it's hard to say like why the show is as good as it is, but it is. So
Okay, I also want to talk about it. How I would explain it is Kemono Friends is an indie anime, or rather it's made by a very small staff for a very long period of time, and their constant struggle is trying to express themselves in a genuine fashion against the reality of time and budget. So the shitty gliding CGI that we see from episode 1 persists throughout. Like, they don't even animate the wheels of the bus in the opening.
now in the second opening they do, but
Yeah, but still, it's like watching a children's drawing. It's very rough and it's kind of shit. It looks like shit, but you can see the passion and
I will say with the visual direction, yeah, it's inarguably bad. You can't say otherwise, but it does try to mitigate it with a lot of the comedic timing and sort of the jokes that it does, like because it knows it's bad, and that this ain't any modern piece of masterful art, but it manages to consistently swing it in a way that looks just janky enough that it's funny. So
it does persist its own genuine charm as a subtext. But it all comes from keeping the presentation basic and simple, because it is essentially a kids' show. And no matter how much post-apocalyptic goose you put in the backgrounds, it still treats itself straight as an adventure show. Every episode, there's a new area our protagonists visit with new characters based on other animals. And every single one has a certain characteristic, a certain personality that you immediately identify and is different from the previous ones you have been introduced to. And it just keeps that up while slowly revealing a few hints about how the world works and what was before the apocalyptic events. But it doesn't really reveal what's the origin of the world, like Shinsekai Yori. And it just keeps the post-apocalyptic stuff as a spice in. It's solely relegated to the backgrounds. But at the same time, it shows pragmatic application, or if I were to oversell it, an engineering mindset. How to apply knowledge to your surroundings, which is something most wouldn't even think about, but it does show those aspects of people just surviving through tough times. In this case, animals, but still. But even then, it also manages to make a joke out of that because of how bad it is. So again, to underline its charm and just make you smile. You know, in some cases, it's like just a comfort show because of its simplicity. And you can still see that it's a passion project throughout. And that's why it gets the recognition it deserves, outside of just being a meme.
I don't. It was obviously a meme at the start, but at this point, I don't really think it's a meme, and I do think the passion project is a part of it. But I think just writing it off as that belies about a lot of the actual like quality of the show. I think I thought the writing specifically was very good, and the way the gradual story works is really good at drawing you in slowly over time, and especially the character writing, I think, is the strongest point of the show. All the little animals, it has they're actually pretty well researched in their little gimmicks. Like the prairie dog girl kisses everyone when she meets them, which is actually something that prairie dogs do to when they meet each other in real life. And that's just one example, but there's a lot of that, and they all come off as very unique and interesting in their own ways, even if they have like 5 minutes of airing time. I mean, I would honestly say that the show has better characters than Demi-chan, with more interests and personality all to them, and I would say that like almost across the board. And I mean, this show has something like 30 characters that it's introduced, and they're all likable and they're all fun, and the two main leads are just, they're so strong that it by the end you don't even realize that they're so likable enough. So like when you get to episode 11, when spoilers, Kaban sacrifices herself and utilizes all the skills she's learned from the interactions with everyone else by that point to save Serval, and then sacrifices herself to be able to save it, that it actually hurts. Yeah, I don't really know what to say there, but
it's a passion project that succeeds despite its inherent problems, and that is very much due to the writing and directing. Like even with the episodes, the directing tried to hide the shoddy CGI more and more skillfully. Like it even managed to make action scenes work, no matter how janky they were. It just manages to convey the points it wants to convey and actually invests you emotionally through its understated charm.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad that show ended up being something more than everybody thought it was going to be.
I mean, it's the biggest, it's the top selling show this season by ridiculous margin. So
You mean top selling in Blu-ray sales?
yeah, you can't. It's hard to find any results since they're listed as guidebooks instead. But it's more or less Blu-rays, and it contains all the episodes and stuff. But yeah, the last things I saw, it was sitting right below Yuri on Ice's numbers. So
Damn.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
This year, Kimono Friends appeared, and suddenly I realized how many mangas are around about animal girls.
what?
More than usual.
A lot of doujinshi came out of that. I wouldn't be surprised.
There's Killing Bites, there's Murenase ga Sito no Gakuen, I think it's called.
I do think
No, we wouldn't be familiar.
I do expect there to be a blowback, sort of, and that we are going to see a couple, I'd say a fair number of like knockoffs trying to capture the charm that this show did, in much the same way My Little Pony had like Littlest Pet Shop and the all those.
I
shows
wouldn't
that
exactly
tried
call
to
them
capture
knockoffs.
that
They're
weren't.
they're pretty good on their own right.
I think blowback's the right word. Definitely. So if it has that big of an impact, I mean, great. That's so. You are you telling just who are you telling to go watch this show?
Literally anyone um, who thinks they would enjoy it, I guess. I think it's one of those shows that has a really good broad appeal if you're willing to put the effort into it and get past the first episode or two when, because it starts pretty bad. I'd say it's pretty linear. Each episode is better than the last. Um, but considering where it starts, it can be kind of hard to get past that first jump. But if you're willing to, I think more or less, I don't really know how people would hate it unless or not enjoy it unless you don't buy into the whole sort of Tenoshi smiling, happy, fun mindset at all. I mean, I know a couple people on the server have talked about that before, and I totally get if that's not your thing, but for more or less anyone else, I think it'd be great. I also think it's one of those rare anime where, I mean, I guess it'd need a dub, but if it did, you could actually show it to like children and they'd enjoy it. So
Yeah, I would recommend it to any experienced media viewer who can read a bit more into the directing and is up to tolerate the CGI just to get desensitized to it eventually and really read into the subtext and the charm of the show and just enjoy it for the passion it presents instead of what it looks like.
Cool. And all right, well, let's leave it there. Does anybody else have any pressing show that they want to get to? Gotta get something off your chest. Anyone gotta speak earnestly and passionately about something?
Maid Dragon, anyone?
Go there.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
down
it's
with
like
that
a
one.
Maid
Red
Dragon.
Dragon's an important show.
Definitely. So this is KyoAni, and it is an episodic kind of slice of life comedy.
It's not done yet.
Okay. I mean, were there big plot points that needed to be resolved?
Yes.
Kind of, but
Oh yeah.
we can
Yeah,
talk
no,
about
Like
it.
4 weeks
without-
It's
behind, so
fine.
no spoilers, please.
Yeah, I won't talk about the spoilers. Since I know it's going to happen, but
Well,
It's a
that's
slice of life. It has no spoilers.
yeah.
for fuck's sake.
That strikes me as odd that you would mention that there would be spoilers that you'd need to kind of warn people about. 'Cause that's not the type of show I thought this was.
They teased another character. The last episode is what they're talking about, but we don't know, so there's not much to spoil. That's it.
well, I mean, I know the character, so
Manga is cheating.
Yeah, I will
Right.
say that Ms. Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is one of the best examples of a decent show that has like spectacular execution and just does a whole lot better than it should be. Even though I know Kai doesn't like it, like it is a fun show and it's a lot funner than I think it should be.
Shoto
Like-
animation in a nutshell. TBH.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
This
Production.
is-
Yeah, the production values matter for a lot. But anyway, go ahead, Contessa. Kind of sell me on this show because I don't like it.
Actually,
Watch the
before
dub.
Contessa goes,
Go ahead.
I haven't actually seen the entire show, but I've seen the first 3 episodes. So Contessa can go on from there. Sorry if you hear shit in the background. My friend's playing Bloodborne. Anyways, so my appeal of the show comes from the first episode. It takes like these surreal fantasy elements and brings it down to a slice of life style that it's the usual. It's the usual anime whatever. Shit. Sorry, I'm going out of it right now. But the real appeal to it comes from the fact that it kind of takes what expected anime tropes, and it kind of does a twist on them, and it throws my expectation off, and that's my enjoyment of it of the first 3 episodes. I can see what Kai was saying from before about how it was at the beginning it seems experimental, it's trying something new, and then it tries to play it safe later on. I can see that argument when I looked at episode 3, where it was just like, it starts to go into the usual fantasy anime comedy style that you tend to see in your other shows. But I think that the little Maid Dragon part episodes with Toru and like you have like those little nice action sequences, like when there's that little robbery in the market, and then she does something like out of the ordinary, super cool. Um, and then the main character is like, oh, well, the crowd's looking at her, something's gonna happen, and then it throws off your expectations. Like, oh, everyone's praising her now. I think it's the little small tidbits like that that really make it enjoyable for me. Anyone could go on off of that.
And so yeah, I gotta say it has lots of really nice moments there. Like I marathon like 7 episodes with my brother, and I mean he enjoyed it. I will say, like, I think it really helps with the dub, in which a lot of the jokes, a lot of the timing, like I just don't see myself enjoying it nearly as much as I was watching it sub. Because again, like the dub group did a really good job. And honestly, I think a lot of comedies tend to work a little bit better dubbed just because it's easier to get comedic timing in your own language. Because I really don't like comedic timing in Japanese. But yeah, there's just so many crazy moments of just like brilliant animation. And so I mean, it's a good show. It's like as clean animation, but I mean, there's not a lot of substance to it, but I mean, it is like cotton candy and it's enjoyable.
I think that's one of my main concerns was I didn't really feel like anything was happening, and I know it would when it did touch on those moments about like why the dragon Toru would want to stay with Kobayashi-san and their relationship. I was a little more interested in that.
It does cover it, but about 2 minutes in the entire fucking show. So good
Wait,
luck
about-
with that.
Wait,
Yeah.
about what?
The
The
relationship.
relationship between Toru and Kobayashi.
What?
What? That's the
They're-
entire
What are you talking
show.
about? Yeah, they're just people that get along. Like, does it matter? Like,
Yeah,
they
but it
found-
doesn't actively talk about it
What have you watched the most?
straightforward.
Have you watched the most recent episode?
Yeah, like I said, 2 minutes in 12 episodes.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know how much more straightforward you want it to be. Like, it's just kind of saying that, like, they just kind of ran into each other when both of them were at, like, a pretty low point in their life.
Well, I'm sorry for setting low expectations for drama because Kobayashi has
You-
minimum of it.
You can't.
You can't just say you want it to be a drama.
And you can't even say that, like, oh, they talk about it too much, and then immediately go to fucking like Kusu no Honkai, because I know one of your issues is that they talk too much, and you
Oh,
can't-
that's another can of worms.
Yeah, I'll save that for
let
later.
it- I'll let that slide.
But I think there are a couple issues, and maybe you guys can refute these and kind of tell people why this show avoids what I'm about to say. But the primary one is my expectations going into a Kyoto animation comedy are Nichijou. And Nichijou
Okay,
is
well,
all right,
by
just
far.
Just stop.
Well, no, let me
That's the end of the
finish. God,
conversation.
Tom. Okay, let me
Stop
finish.
right there. Nichijou is a meme factory.
All right,
This
can I?
is a situational comedy at best and only at times.
Okay, so let me finish here. So and I think especially with the opening song in Kobayashi Maid Dragon, which I think is amazing. It's high
Openings don't
energy.
matter.
No, they do.
Can you? I mean, they do,
don't-
but can we not interrupt Kai? Okay, thanks. God.
So
the
okay, so the main thing you gotta talk about this
Oh
is
my god.
my expectations were the same type of comedy as Nichijou, or the same approach to comedy as Nichijou. And while they do have the quality there, and it definitely looks as good as Nichijou, the situations. Here's an example joke from Maid Dragon. It would be they're playing Mario Kart, and then they turn their bodies with the cart because people do that when they play Mario Kart. And I just sat there stone faced, whereas I was doubled over in laughter when watching Nichijou.
Yeah, you're just expecting something completely different. Like it's
I don't think
wouldn't
it's an unreasonable expectation.
Kai,
So
I don't even think you can say that Nichijou is the prototypical Kyoani comedy.
yeah.
If any, it's Haruhi probably, but or K-On!
It's
One
probably
of the two.
K-On! Yeah.
Yeah, and I enjoyed K-On! Very much, and I laughed a lot in K-On!, and
I
it
mean,
had a
What
little
happened?
bit slower pace than Nichijou, absolutely. And the characters in K-On!, I think, are carry the show in the way that Kobayashi Maid Dragon doesn't really.
Oh.
You
Well, I mean,
you have this bare underpinning in Maid Dragon of them, yeah, like you said, finding each other in a low point in their lives and trying to start a new life together as sort of a family, and I appreciate that, but it doesn't make for very many jokey situations. And
They
all
I
the
don't think it's
fantasy of
trying to
her.
be an out and out comedy though.
Is this not a comedy?
I
It's
mean, it's a comedy, but it's
it's a
not like a
comedy,
comedy
but
comedy.
it's not. It's I think it's like the
at
definition of
times it's a
slice of life series, in that it's very trying very hard to mix the small things, the small moments in life, and present them in a somewhat comical light. Yes, but I mean, it's not a Nichijou comedy where it's like, oh, here's the gag, and we do all the gags.
Hmm.
And in
I
fact,
mean, they spend a long portion just buying like school supplies. Like there's just a lot of mundane stuff in there.
Yeah, the mundanity. Yeah, yeah. That was what got me the most. I sat there stone faced, and it just and then maybe some fantastical thing would happen, like Toru would turn into a dragon, and then that would be a spin on it, and I'd be like, okay, all
Well,
right.
I started to interrupt Contessa, so can you continue?
well, if you don't buy into the premise of domesticity, I guess I can see how you wouldn't like this show in any sense, since that's
Right, and I'm not saying that I'm not buying into that premise. I definitely would want more of that show of them struggling to, like, pay bills and stuff, and dealing with, if it was actually a show about starting a life with these other people. But it seems to,
how is it not?
I guess it seems to want to highlight certain everyday aspects of that, and not say anything meaningful with them. You know. Uh,
So,
Well, what?
so I
Wait,
think you're sort of looking at it wrong, because like if you look at like Kobayashi, I mean, she is actually like a pretty successful person, has like enough money to like take care of herself. She doesn't have any issues with bills, but I mean, she's also a person who really just doesn't even have much of a life outside of work. And so I will say that that seems to be a more typical Japanese thing, especially of a younger generation. And so like I will say there, it does seem like there are sort of like, it does take a lot of sort of slice of life stuff, but it's more contemporary things within like Japanese culture, and not sort of like the extreme of, oh man, like we gotta like get by day to day. It's like you're getting by day to day, but your life is just sort of
mhm. I and
empty.
I'm
also,
kind of one. Go ahead.
no, I know what Kai's looking for. At least I think I do. Kai's looking for the takeaway. Kai needs his
Yeah.
like explicit theme of what is this show about. And if it's
Family.
it's about
Ye-
family.
Yeah,
It's
and it
about,
just sure, I get that, but it just doesn't hit it often enough or well enough for me to be on board with that. And in a way that I think something like K-On! Absolutely does.
but Can isn't as much about family.
Not about family, but togetherness and sharing the moments.
and also
yeah.
K-On! Had like 3 times as many episodes to like work through it.
I mean that's
And the movie.
I don't
well,
think that's much of an excuse.
no. I mean
The characters had also a lot of pressure and an actual common goal to accomplish. While here it is very much about the mundanity and how other people enrich your daily life,
yeah,
and how that enriches you as a person.
you
And
have
it's also cashing in the Monster Girl genre too.
I mean
Yeah.
a little bit, but I mean like you have these characters who feel like in one way or another out of place in the world that they live in, right?
Mhm.
Outcasts.
And they find acceptance in like these like what you might call like they're like these unusual living situations, and like that's how they find a way to be comfortable and happy in their lives. And they, like you see this in all the
Yeah.
characters, so that's your theme if you
I
really
mean,
need that theme.
I guess. I don't.
But even then, it's another spicing to the
Not
plot.
not didactic enough for Kai.
It's not. It's not
Nope.
in there. Especially in the character. I think the worst part of the show is the character of Kana, who
What?
doesn't have any sort of feelings or agency
Kai-
or
no,
anything
Kai-
whatsoever.
Kana is exactly the same way as everybody else. She feels she's not like she's outcast by her society, by her own like parents, and
I didn't see that anywhere in that show.
yeah, that's because you didn't watch enough of it.
That's like her
Watched
character
6
introduction.
episodes.
Yeah, that's in the first episode she's in.
Is it?
Yeah, so
I
never mind.
watched that episode and I don't remember that actually happening.
Because you
Oh,
have
well,
You're
horrible
crazy.
reading comprehension.
Crazy.
I will say if you're watching an anime, you don't even follow what's going on. Like, no wonder.
Well,
you don't
the show needs to make me follow it. If it's one line that she says as a throwaway in her introductory
She
episode,
doesn't
then
say it as a
like
throwaway.
then it doesn't really
let's just do
matter.
a scientific study here.
That's like
Who
her
here
whole
watching that
intro
episode
scene.
understood Kana's backstory, just like say I.
I yeah,
Okay,
Kai,
who
it's
here
Alright.
didn't
Kai, you're
understand
just,
Kana's
you're
Yeah,
just
that's
kind
fine.
of slow.
Say
You're just
nay.
kind of slow. It's okay.
Okay,
It's not the show's fault, is what we're saying.
okay. That's fine. If
It's
the
Kai's
show
fault for
didn't
expecting Nichijou.
if the show didn't make it memorable, then yeah, okay.
No, you're too slow to get it from the show the first time. You have to
All
watch
right.
it like 3 or 4 times.
So
wasn't
don't watch
expecting
this
that
show if
for-
you're slow or if you're expecting Nichijou. But otherwise,
Yeah,
Or-
definitely
Yeah,
don't watch it if you're
pretty
expecting
much.
Nichijou.
it's an
Watch it if
okay
you're
slice
expecting-
of life.
Don't watch
No,
the
it's a
show
good,
if
it's a
you
good slice of
you're-
life.
if you have weird ass expectations about show and
Okay.
preconceived notions.
So
I would go as
there-
far as to say the sketches and the joke factor are the worst part
Yeah, I
of
would
the
actually
show.
agree with that.
Like they range from like Lukoa and Shota being just straight up like, yo, this is fucked up, to the Saikawa Kana stuff, which is just like, this is really awkward, or just like Kobayashi trying to feed her tail, which is just an interesting, it sort of gets in the way. And it's when they're trying to actually
Be
talk.
a gag comedy.
Yeah, when it's a gag comedy, it's pretty bad. But when it's not doing that, it's really good. So
Okay, and as a self-proclaimed hater of FOF, the poignant moments between the characters are something I did appreciate.
Yeah, I like the little moments, like every episode,
Mm-hmm.
where they just like zeroed in on the themes. But
yeah,
I'm still I'm not caught up, but the Comic-Con or Comic-Con episode was the best one so far that I watched.
All right.
otherwise,
You know, one thing I liked about it, I'm not 100% sure on it, but I'm pretty confident that the person who sings the OP doesn't appear in the anime until like episode 10.
Wait, that's
no, the
Epona. I don't know if she's the voice actor.
Yeah. No, she's.
I want to say it's like the water dragon is the one who actually, that voice actress I want to say sings the OP.
No.
The OP is sung by Epona.
That's like just like she's just sung by like a pop
Yeah,
singer
it's
in Japan.
a band.
Okay, well then I'm completely mistaken then.
Well,
I think
she
the
sings in
ED
the
is
ED
the-
though.
Yeah, the ED's music or the voice actresses, I think.
I do love that opening though. I'll say it again.
Yeah, no, it's a
I
really
like
good
both
opening.
of them. I like both
has-
the opening and the
I
ED.
think the ED is better.
And the ED probably, as far as Kai's like thing, where it's just like it needs to be like the show. The ED is probably more like the show.
Yeah.
I will say two things. One, saying something gangsta is this in your Maid Dragon meme is pretty fire. Second, shut up. Anyways, the second thing is no, I have someone with me here, and he told me some bullshit, which
No,
he's
I
right
know.
on. Okay. The second thing is if you, for anyone who is actually listening to this, if you enjoyed this, check out another anime. It's by Seven, which is a studio who you don't want to look up the history for. Same
The
author, same
henties.
author.
Henties.
Yeah, the henties. Yeah, check that out. It does thrive on the enjoyment of mundane lifestyle with a twist to it. You know, the little bits. So if you are into this, check out. I can't understand what my husband is saying. I just wanted to shout that out.
Cool. Also, watch
Um,
everything that KyoAni has ever made because it's all
Yes.
good.
Do it.
And also, don't read
And
any
it's all
Kyo-
fluff.
Kyo- don't read any of Kyoshita's mangas because they're all pretty fucking terrible. And the KyoAni pulled a miracle.
No.
And the other thing
That's what KyoAni
is,
does.
Yeah, Kyoto Animation is
Yeah,
Miracle
no.
Factory.
But
Right,
what
right.
about that one show with the with fuck I already Phantom World? There we go.
Phantom World is fine. Like honestly, considering their source material, like the source material is probably a 1.
All right,
Okay.
let's keep it on winter 2017, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Based on nobody's read it, so.
Well, I think that's good. I think we handled that show a lot. Okay. Moving on. Who's got something they want to talk about?
Hey,
What?
hey!
Oh, you had
never
more.
even Had, like, I mean, the other thing is, it was also really good at normalizing queer relationships, and that needs to be talked about a little, or at least recommended.
Oh, yeah, it didn't even seem like a thing in that show that anyone was.
Well,
It
yeah,
seemed
'cause
so commonplace.
It was normalized, yes.
Is it
Um,
common
All right.
I
to
don't.
just like
Okay.
Cool.
That's
And thus, we move on to an actual meme factory, Konosuba 2.
I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it.
It was
I didn't watch
kind of
it.
I might just because the I watched the first season. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it as much as other people because the jokes got kind of old for me. But I heard the second season's
Sounds
actually
about
better,
right.
So
I've been told the second season's worse.
They're
Really?
about even in quality, I would say. I like the second season a little more because it really fleshed out a couple of the characters who were really one note in the first season, specifically Darkness. Otherwise, it was Konosuba. You know what you're getting into if you're watching the second season. So
Yeah, I would also join the co-op that second season is slightly worse because the freshness is gone. The jokes are getting more tired by the episode. And mostly I just enjoyed episode 2 and 4. 2 because it was focused on Megumin, who became a smartass out of the blue. And 4, which focused on Darkness's backstory and origin. Well, mostly on origin and how she deals with it. And that's about it. The rest of the show is fine, I guess, but it just lacks the freshness and the same punch as the first season. So,
all right, maybe I won't watch it then.
yeah,
Um,
I just can't sell it straight up nor hype it. It's
I mean-
it's okay, but it's
If you
more
want-
Konosuba.
yeah.
if you watch the first season and liked it, you'll like the second season.
Well, if
probably.
you- And if you watched the first season and thought, man, I would watch 10 more episodes of this, then you'll definitely like it.
Right.
Yeah, I watched the first season. I got tired of it after like 2 episodes.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in that boat too, which is why I didn't watch very much of it. Even though I thought the stuff I watched of it was funny, I just felt no reason to go back.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. Thought it was fine.
Wow, I'm so surprised because everyone on YouTube seems to love this anime.
Well, yeah, because it's Konosuba. Konosuba
Yeah.
is
The meme show.
popular.
Because Konosuba's popular and they need to make their YouTube bucks by telling everyone it's good.
Gotta get those YouTube bucks. See, Kai, this is why you're not popular. This is why you only have like 15 subscribers.
We have to talk about Konosuba more.
Because you don't talk about Konosuba enough.
Okay.
Or Sword
talk
Art
about Konosuba
Online.
more, which
Or
is
Sword
what I
Art
want to do.
Online.
Talk about Konosuba more.
Has anyone seen it that wants to talk about it more?
I just
wanna
want to
talk
say I
about-
would probably like it a lot. I just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Can I say something real quick?
Who's watched it anyways? It seems like only like 2
Oh.
people.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I do want to say something about it. Not really. I just want to say that I don't agree with Crit. I think it's just as good as the first season. And if you like the first season, you like the second season. But I don't think it got dry. I think it was equally as funny, equally as exciting.
Yeah, that's what I thought about it.
I mean, I want to say that as someone who actually liked the first season because I think you got tired of it.
No,
Yeah.
I like the season. I like both seasons. I'd watch
Yeah,
a
it
third
seems
season
like
if
it
they did.
got dry and tired for me, so
I mean, you
Yeah.
said that.
All right, Hype, what do you want to say? Hype, what the fuck?
Hype wants to say something. that
Yeah,
pisses the fuck
I've
out.
just been trying to find a perfect time to squeeze in, but you know how like talking over the internet works versus in person.
Hmm.
I just want to say that to lean a bit on Crit side, I actually have not watched it, but I'm just saying off of what my a good friend of mine who I trust his opinion tells me. He says like to quote Crit on the freshness. He tells me that the comedy in relation to the plot in the first season, I've seen the first season, by the way. The comedy always ties into some form of world building or plot advancement, and he tells me in the second season, it feels as though like the show was running in circles in terms of quote unquote progression, where the comedy doesn't lean into any world building or character development or plot progression, and that's just what I've been told. I
don't agree with that on the world building front.
You don't agree with that? Just
No.
That's what I've been told. So I just wanted to make that point.
No, I don't agree with that.
I think it drastically built on the world, actually.
Yeah. I
It
think it
did a
does
bit,
about
but-
as much as it did in the first season. I think like maybe the first season there was more like they were introducing characters, so it felt like you got more character development out of the comedy. I could say that, but I think as other than the fact that characters aren't being introduced anymore, like the world building is still expanding with the comedy.
Okay.
Yeah, but in a much more incremental pace. Like there's not this feeling of freshness. You're not in this new world where you have to adapt on the fly. You're already established, so all it can provide is change of setting, and it uses the same dungeon twice, then goes to another setting, which has only one joke, and
I just don't agree with that.
It feels much less inspired to me. Is all I'm getting at.
See, I disagree.
I mean,
with
how many
that.
times did they use the frog joke in the first season? Like, Konosuba reuses jokes. And it builds on them. That's part of the appeal of it. At least I think it is.
That's part of most
And-
comedies.
And I think the season, especially with the character jokes, it actually built off them quite a bit. Like Darkness is a lot more going on with her this season than she did in the first one. Maggie
But
King-
it also highlights how shallow she is as a gag.
I mean, I think everyone kind of already realized how shallow Darkness is. This makes her less,
Yeah.
like, slightly less shallow, but, you know, it's not like you watch Konosuba for deep characters.
How many of you watched Gabriel Dropout?
I watched
I
half of
did.
it,
I
and
watched-
it was really boring. And
Same.
Yeah.
compared to, there's like 5 cute girl shows this season, and all of them are doing something more
Different.
interesting than
Yeah.
Gabriel
Yeah.
Dropout does.
Yeah, it felt really rote, like it was just going over the same anime tropes.
I feel the same way about Gab Drop as I do.
What are we talking about now?
all- Gab Drop.
Oh yeah.
I feel the same way about Gab Drop as I do about everything Gyoko Kobo makes, which is a shrug.
Yeah.
It's a good looking shrug, at least, I guess.
Yeah, it's a pretty shrug usually.
Yeah,
Mm.
it seemed fine. It seemed fine. But
To me, it's a snooze fest.
Yeah, no, if you like cute girl comedies and you don't care about progressing the genre at all and doing anything interesting, go ahead and watch it. You'll probably
Yeah.
like it.
yeah.
It has that girl with the gun. She seems cute.
Oh, see,
The
Satania-
meme that was made out of that was better than the actual show.
you see,
I believe that.
Yeah,
Satania was the
that gun
only
scene
interesting
meme has been
character.
used so many times. Sorry to cut you off, Contessa.
Satania was like the only thing carrying the show at all after the first episode, and even then they realized it and ran her into the ground by the third episode, and that is where the true awfulness set in. So
The entire joke is the daughter of Satan is getting bullied. Another joke is, hey, look at this demon. She's a true angel because she has the motherly archetype.
Yeah.
Amazing irony.
Oh.
Cool. Got something else?
Oh, that was the whole show. And unless somebody has something else to mention about it, I think that's all we need to say about it.
Good derailment.
It's better than
I
me.
was sparing that show for you guys.
What came out of it was one really good meme about Metal Gear Solid. That's my take on it.
Gotta get those
Might
Metal
as well.
Gear Solid memes.
Yes, the Revolver Ocelot meme out of that. Look, just find this one YouTuber that goes by Sour. He does a meme on it. If you're into Metal Gear Solid, that's gold. It's gold.
Okay. Memes aside, let's get into the true meme of the season, Kuzo no Honkai.
How many
Which
fucking
it's not a
memes do
Kuzuno
we have,
Honkai is
though?
not a meme.
It's not a
We-
meme. Stop
In
being
fact, it was officially unmemed. Officially.
It's a
Officially
good-
by what? Unofficially, officially?
No, officially because we took it off the meme watch. It was officially unmemed.
It's true.
Wow, I didn't know I actually
Don't let your
tied it
memes
into
be
that.
memes, guys.
Don't let your meme.
Your memes be dreams. Damn.
So Kuzuno Honkai was really good show.
No,
I dropped it like on episode 2.
Okay.
good taste.
I absolutely loved Kuzuno Hankai, and talk a little bit about what it did and what it did
Can you even
right.
talk about the show without spoiling it? Because like
This-
I feel like
That's
Not
fine.
really.
We're
I
in
mean-
the spoil zone.
I mean,
oh we are. I thought this was no spoiler.
No,
No,
this
this
is
is
the
not-
spoil zone.
season wrap up,
This is
but
spoil-
I'm
like,
going to
what-
spoil the crap out of it.
I don't think there's anything really there that's would, if you know how this show ends, I don't think it would dissuade you from watching the show. The strength of the show is how the characters feel in the moment and understanding that, the empathy that goes along with that, and knowing their struggle to figure out what love is, what that looks like, with no guidance whatsoever, is that's the whole point. And that's, man, it hit that again and again and again in such an effective way. To give an overview of it, it's just pretty high schoolers and relationship issues. That's pretty much all. The two main characters have crushes on their teachers, and they confess, and they kind of get together just to act out their sexual frustrations, and they kind of explore whether loving someone is loving someone physically or something else, in the way that you can really only do when you're 17 or 18. So a lot of people said over the run of this show that, oh, it's unrealistic, and I balk at that. Like, did you not go to high school? Did you go straight from 12 to 20 years old? Like, there's so much in the show that is quintessentially teenage, and if you can drink that in, and if you can accept it and roll with it, man, it's a ride, and a powerful one.
Um,
I don't think
Okay,
it's
so can I say
particularly
something now, or-
realistic, but it is interesting. Definitely.
It's exaggerated. Yeah, go ahead, Peyton.
I will say that this is an anime that I just freaking detest. So, I mean, really, at the end of the day, what it is that you're just watching a train wreck. And the train wreck just keeps on getting bigger, more gasoline gets put onto the fire, and it's just like more explosions happen. And it is just freaking, man. I get so like one part furious, one part disgusted. It's just such a depressing and just pointless anime. And I hope no one has a high school experience anywhere near that. Because yeah, there's looking for love, but man, like this is like this anime is it's a bit too much.
The only thing I would say is unrealistic about this show is the teacher part of it, with them being interested in their teachers for real as opposed to anything else. Otherwise, all these situations are things like I've either experienced or had experience or had friends who experienced in high school. And I mean, I don't think any of that was like out of the ordinary. I don't even think it was really a train wreck. And to say this is just people who don't know how to have positive relationships, learning to have positive relationships. So
Yeah, and it being like a train wreck and it being like depressing to watch. First of all, I didn't find it to be particularly depressing, but
yeah, me neither.
Which one are you talking about now?
We're talking about Kuzu.
Scum's Wish.
Even if that is the case, I mean, like my favorite shows are extremely depressing, so it's not really like a point against it or anything. It's not a point for it either. It's just like a thing.
To expand on some of my issues is that it has a lot of just non-animation where it looks like it basically just like takes a manga, puts it on screen, and adds some really cool effects to it. Now, I'm not saying it's all bad because, again, there's some pretty cool stuff to it, but it has a lot of sort of stillness in there, and a lot of times where it looks like I'm almost sort of just like watching a manga, not really watching an anime, which is, I don't know, that's something that I'm not usually a big fan of, even if I understand that maybe it's the maybe some freaking budget concerns about it.
I
I guess the thing about it is like it just felt like it just kept on compounding in a way that I was just sort of tired of it. And it seemed like I don't know, it seemed like there were some like lines that was one across and other lines it wasn't. And it just seemed like, okay, it was gonna go like all crazy. You would expect something like this to happen, but this particular thing doesn't happen. There's some parts about it that seem just a little bit inconsistent to me. But hey, that would be going into a whole lot more spoilers. The other thing is that let's be honest, that there's parts of it where it's basically just like softcore porn, and I don't know.
The softcore porn always had a point. I mean, you're right, it is that, but that doesn't make it bad.
Yeah, but it got to the point where like a lot of this stuff that it does, like when one of its favorite tricks would show like a younger person of their self, and they'll be like seeing what their actions, and it did that all the time. And even then it felt so samey. I felt like it could have been done better, or characters could have better like internal conflicts, but it just, I don't know, like that the creator just didn't really have that many good tools in their kit to tell a story.
Right, and I don't think the strength of this show was the directing, and certainly the paneling was
awful.
a choice that it could have done without, definitely. But I don't think it hurt the show in a whole lot of ways, and stuff like them seeing the younger versions of themselves. I don't know, is an effective tool of talking about a more innocent time, and the impetus of the feelings, the genesis of the feelings comes from a more pure emotion, and it's showing their younger selves reflected that it kind of became unpure or different somewhere along the way.
And more to the thing, since so much of the show is based on internal thoughts and monologue, adding that aspect allows there to be more interplay and dialogue in the show. So, Kara, do you want to say something? I see you keep popping in.
Oh, I guess I'm like in the middle of this because I do like actually understand some of Phaeton's criticism. I think the show had some interesting themes, and I think it delivered on them. But I think its plot got very bumpy on the way.
Yeah, I agree with
and
that.
I think the direction, definitely, I don't think it's as small of an issue as you make it sound. Like the direction is fine when it's not like doesn't have paneling usually, but I do think the paneling is actively distracting at some points. But yeah, like the end, I like the end to some degree, but I think it got there very messy. I think after pretty much from the Mocha episode onward, the series lacked conflict, and it lacked that hyper reality it had in the first 6 episodes. And I think that it really lost sight of what it. I mean, it maintained its themes track in terms of themes, but I think it really started more rushing its plot just to get where it wanted to go, and it didn't maintain. It didn't maintain that hyper reality it had. I really don't like Kanai's character, the sensei. I think he's very
not a character,
idealized.
he's a plot device.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly.
But he has the answer, right? He has the idea of what love is and how it manifests actually in a real relationship. And
In the most naive fashion ever.
That's the thing. Like he's idealized, and everyone else is hyper realized, and I think that's
He's
there's
also
a big
extremely
contrast
vague too.
It's extremely vague. Like I think Mocha didn't need to be a character, and you could have given that time to Kanai to make him less idealized, more hyper realized, and still have Akane's answer.
I like Mocha as a character.
I don't hate Mocha as a character. I think if the show is 2 Kur, they could both exist. I just don't think there's enough time for both of them in a 1 Kur show.
Yeah, I can see that.
There is a point where it's like the show just has to wrap up, and I kind of wanted a little bit more struggle, a little bit more growth. But they were like,
I don't think it really does have to wrap up. Like, I mean, like obviously the show has to end, obviously, but like it doesn't need to have like a super conclusive ending. Like, does it? At least I don't think it does.
No, it doesn't.
I think Akane needed that conclusive ending.
I actually really don't like how Akane's story was finished. Like, I don't entirely dislike it, but I'm very skeptical.
Oh, I loved it.
Oh, you actually liked it?
Yeah, I thought she had the best ending of anyone. So.
Yeah.
Can you explain that? Because I am not really on board.
I took a very sociological view to her character and resolution there, in as much that her character, I feel big part of it was that she'd internalized a lot of negative feelings and a lot of the negative stigma attached to people who have casual sex a lot, and she'd firmly taken on that negative label of slut, and that was where a lot of her issues, I feel, came from, and that a lot of the reason she hated other people as much, and she always tried to stab other girls in the back by stealing their men and whatever, was her trying to fit into that character and feel something right. And so I felt her ending up in the relationship, and finding Kanai, who is this idealized guy who sees outside of the societal labels, and he doesn't place any value on the act of sex itself. And so when he sees this, he's like, yeah, I'm fine with an open marriage, because he doesn't see sex as like a big deal like most of the people do.
Yeah. But he still sees her for who she is and the value of her person outside of the labels. And if that's not love, then what is?
Okay, and so here's
cool.
something
I like
I'll have to retort on this one. I'm not going to go into it deep. Is that and sort of that explanation, I think, is one reason that really gets like irks me. And again, it sort of just comes down to is that I follow sort of a more objective morality base, and that is just such sickening nonsense to my ears. But I can understand that that's more of a personal thing than something else there. But yeah, this is just like I dislike a lot of the stuff coming.
I mean, the thing is that like it's not like I don't really know how morality comes into this.
I would go as far as to say the show is directly criticizing, especially at the end with Akane's resolution there, that process, and that it's seriously questioning why you think that is some unfathomable thing for her.
I mean, I agree with you that the series is challenging that, but I think Peyton's reiterating Christian values, which
sure
don't have room for that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not necessarily Christian. I imagine like even some of the stuff would be something that you'd see as more like Japanese values, but it's to the point where this is throwing away what has been such traditional, like sort of human values, or like more like
let's not say human
in a lot of different societies, and it's just it seems to be very like philosophically dangerous just to be throwing something away without actually trying to look at it, and then inverting like love to mean something like this, in which you can have a long discussion of what love actually is and what it isn't. And I don't really like what this show was doing in trying to say what love is.
Kuzu doesn't even approach such an essence, really.
You
Do you have like an argument for that vacuous conclusion? Like, vacuous conclusions are the hardest to reach when you interpret something. You'd have to reject everything all of us have said so far.
What was Kuzu's final message?
I think we've been talking about
we just
that.
talked about,
like really now, really, because everybody is left alone, and the sociopathic villain is in a marriage, which is still very hard to grasp because she's marrying the plot device, who is not a fully fleshed out character, who we cannot understand outside that he has an Oedipus complex for the villain he is marrying.
What? An Oedipus complex? What?
What?
Yeah, like he likes her because like she looks like his mom. That was it.
Is that the explanation?
Stated, but it was clearly like shown through visuals.
Yes, that's his entire fucking character.
And I mean that's why he's actually so forgiving of her basically open admitting of infidelity, is because like he's been like so missing his like mom character as a kid that like he's almost willing to accept anything just to have her around.
Yeah, but we never explore that mindset.
I don't think that's a complete reading of his character, because he in the
it's
earlier
the only reading of his
Crit,
character.
Whoa, Crit! If you're gonna go low on like that, we're gonna have to take action against you. Calm down.
He just shows, especially early on in the first encounter with Akane, where yes, he does end up having sex with her, but it very clearly shows he has a very cavalier, awkward to an extent. He doesn't value sex the way all the other people do as a sort of emotional comfort, and that's a very established part of his character. So
Well, it does help that he's basically your shoujo romance protagonist, more or less, except that he's one of the other characters in this series.
It's
AK
just-
is not a teen.
I don't think it's fair saying he's a shoujo romance protagonist either, because he's not particularly princely, and he doesn't try and rape people. So
he's just someone with a different worldview, and the show is saying this certain worldview is triumphing here, and all the characters over the course of the show, experience some or experiment and try to experience something close to what love is, and they all maybe they don't end up there like Akane does, actually realizing what love means, and what it
She's
means
also,
to be loved
like,
and love someone.
she's a whole decade older than everyone else.
But, I mean, yeah,
which I
true,
think that was a
but-
big point as well, was that like these are all high schoolers and they're still learning things.
But it could have, yeah, and I think it just the way it ended, that she's like, oh, it didn't end, the main characters didn't fall in love, and it didn't have a, it doesn't really have to. I think.
It's not that they didn't fall in love. They didn't learn anything from the experience.
Oh,
They
that's not true
outright
at
say
all.
It's
That's
all meaningless.
Actually, there's I think there's a direct example to contradict that, or maybe you can rationalize some other way. Because in episode 1, Akane like viciously rejects that guy, and in episode the final episode, another like random dude asked Hana out, not Akane, Hana, and she like is much more kind about the way she's rejecting him. She's very aware of his feelings.
Yeah.
So I think that's like clear as day, supposed to be character development. It's not subtle at all, but it's really obvious. So I don't know how you rationalize
it's
that.
just like when Echan forced herself on her. Very doubtful, very passive, and she didn't take action when it was required of her.
Well, no, I'm asking, how do you rationalize that there was no character development with those two moments?
Well, it literally tells me it was all meaningless, and I'm used to Kuzu telling me what to think. Therefore, I don't have to rationalize for myself.
How is that meaningless? Like, you have a character that clearly has progressed between 1 and 12. You have this most obvious example you could have. I'm asking, how is that not character development?
It's not.
It doesn't feel like it. Like I said, it tells me it's meaningless. Therefore, it is.
Why?
No,
What tells you? What about that example is
Crit.
meaningless? I'm asking you to get
Not
specific.
about the example. I'm not talking about the example. I'm talking about what it
Your
told.
failure to interact with the work and try and talk about it is not a. You can't use that
Okay.
as evidence of it being insufficient or bad in any sort of way.
Then let me
If you
start
don't-
from the beginning. I failed to interact with the work because it completely alienated me from episode 2 and so on. I just cannot fathom their thought process, how it is so clear and so they're so emotionally aware for teenagers. Yet, even with that acute emotional awareness, they still fuck up because the plot says so. It feels completely artificial.
But they aren't that emotionally aware.
Yes,
Like-
they are. Otherwise, they
sorry,
wouldn't
sorry.
put their emotions into such
Well, that
specific
Their
words
intellectual-
that is universally understandable.
Emotionally aware in the sense that like they understand when they're like sad or angry or like if they like somebody, but they're not like.
They don't have the answers, and
Okay,
I
so
thi-
here,
The
so
show.
here's actually something that I think.
You
Okay,
go.
okay.
You go ahead.
Here's
Jake.
something that I always sort of found a little bit frustrating with it, and I maybe this is sort of what Crit was talking about, but something that I think is just poor like writing is that there will be moments where the story tries to put out like an interesting observation to really like clarify like what like who is thinking and all that kind of stuff, or like to emphasize that this is what's happening in the story, and they would have the characters do it. And so you'd have a character who's supposed to be like a teenager and then like searching through and trying to like find their way. And then all of a sudden, like they drop this line of like extreme clarity and like defining like, oh, this is what this character is. And you could tell from the way the story, like that's how we're supposed to view the character. But it seems really weird for like a character just so easily just like give that like knowledge bomb and then go back to where they were, where they can't really seem to struggle. And so it was a jarring clarity of the characters and their own surrounding used to allow for the audience to understand what's going on. And there wasn't a good vehicle for it, and I can understand why they did it, but it's still it felt really weird.
I actually agree with
And
that a
it's
lot.
done for
I think that's
every
really
character.
evidential of some problems with the script.
That's fair, and it did kind of they do kind of talk about their emotions in a way that you normal people, I guess, wouldn't really do. But
Like emotions are much more ambiguous. There's a certain essence of mental conscious that cannot be put into words, and the lack of ambiguity is really disturbing and distracting here. It's not. It leaves nothing to the imaginations. You cannot infer anything. You are told to feel this way, therefore you have no other option or say in the matter. Like you cannot have subliminal messaging and just planting the seeds to assume what the characters are going through and imagine it for yourself instead of just being told straight up. That's one of the immense pitfalls of Kuzu as a drama, as a character drama.
Yeah, I also thinking back to it, it doesn't really feel as emotional as I would think it would be. And I mean, I've had discussions of trying to talk people from making stupid decisions like marrying a prostitute or things like that. And it's just, but in usually there's a lot more emotional, like by that point in time, a person is extremely emotional invested, and there's really not much you can do to talk them out of it, in which they have like a feeling there. And that's something that thinking back to it, like so much of this anime felt really detached. I
can continue, but I want to come back to this.
Detached from its setting, detached from any context outside whatever the characters make up on the spot.
And maybe like I'm just looking because maybe some of the characters were more emotional, but I mean I just feel like I've seen lots of people try to just rationalize things away to like fit what they want, and the show would comment on that, but it didn't really seem like people actually did that. In which I don't know, I just say it's a whole lot easier for people to live as a hypocrite than I think the anime is making it appear.
Yeah, in the end, everybody is a saint who forgives everyone.
What?
I feel like you watched a completely different show than me, but going back to the detached point, I think that was clearly an intentional part of the show, and that all of these characters are very detached. They're all a little too smart for their own good, and they recognize that they're feeling these things, but they don't know how to properly execute or understand or process the feelings they're having. And
then where's the confusion?
The entire show?
Don't know how to process it. I want to bring this to some sort of a resolution here because
Well, I mean, I don't feel like we're very close to a resolution. We can keep talking for a while. Do we need to stop?
Yeah, I think we could probably stop. I don't know if we're gonna really go anywhere.
Well, no, I know I'm not gonna get Crit on board with me.
And
no, that's fine with me.
I think
yeah.
I think we've both we've said both parts or both ways of looking at the show that I think a lot of people will have, that you can either accept it or reject it for reasons that we've stated. And
we cannot see how we reject it. We cannot see how you accept it.
No, I'm just saying that that if you are a person who sounds like you would be able to accept the things that happen in the show, absolutely go watch the show. It's very meaningful.
Okay, here's what I would require for me to accept it. Be like School Days. then it may have
Can we
actual
stop
entertainment
with, like,
value.
Yeah,
the
all right.
ridiculous, like, shitty, just straw man shit? Like, it's not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Crit. I don't.
I like Crit. I feel big part of your thing is that you're refusing to interact with the show and address its themes, which is, I mean, fine if you don't want to. That's your prerogative.
It has no
whatever,
basis for me to address anything it wants to communicate, really.
Can we just move on? Can we just move on?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think we've talked about it
Yes.
enough. So let's.
Let's
go.
Wait, oh, what the fuck? Sorry about that. I just wanted to say that for anyone who had issues, in going into the second half, if anyone doesn't know, the story went into an anime original plot, and the manga actually continues way longer. They couldn't confirm a second season, which is why you kind of see like this weird shift in tone at one point. At least that's what
Yeah.
I've been told.
Okay,
can
that
see
actually
that,
makes
yeah.
a whole lot more sense for what happened between. 'Cause there was that noticeable shift halfway through.
So I'm trying to encourage people to read. Read, people.
Okay.
Oh wait,
Crunchyroll
I have
paywall,
one
I
last
can't.
thing. Screw Amazon for having like a $5.
Oh my
like,
God,
monthly
it's the
subscription to be
worst.
able to watch
It's
this.
the worst thing in the world. I have Amazon Prime and I tried to watch it legally and they were like, "Oh, pay us more." I was like, "No."
Wait, what? This was on Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's on Anime Strike, which you have to pay like $5.95 more a month to be
Yeah.
able to watch Anime Strike. It's like a bonus package to Amazon Prime. Like,
Oh, well, that's bullshit.
it
Yeah,
costs
it was
$15 a month
trash.
to be able to get the HBO package on Amazon Prime added to it. Like, it was ridiculous.
Anywho.
And that was like literally like it had that and Blue Exorcist. Like, they're trying to charge more money and they have almost like nothing there to show for it.
Yeah, it's a terrible business model, but that's neither here nor there. Go buy your anime off Steam. Let's get on to I want to talk or hear you guys talk about the two ongoing shows from last season that were really super popular. So
What, Iron Blooded
Show again.
Orphans?
Well, calm down. Show again Roku or March Comes In Like a Lion. So I know there was a big presence on the server that really enjoyed those. So how was season 2?
Of Rakugo. Fucking brilliant.
And
Yes.
finish it yet. If we're gonna spoil, I'll leave. But yeah.
Oh, just disconnect
Yeah, I'll just
already.
leave, yeah.
Jesus. Okay, anyone else on the Rakugo train?
I'm on the
Finished?
Rakugo train, but I'm gonna
finished.
fucking rant about it. So like, I'm just gonna wait for everyone to be done, and then I can say my.
No, go ahead and rant about it because I feel like I haven't discussed much about it because it's so self-contained and so well done in of itself that I just haven't
Okay,
really
everyone,
discussed much
this
about
was
it.
great. Sorry I couldn't participate longer, but it's really late for me.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming.
I live in Europe. Okay, bye.
See ya.
All right.
Okay, so the beauty of Rakugo, at least from how I took it, is the portrayal of art, and a lot of it comes down to Kiko Hiko's character, and how they use. Am I cutting out? By the way, I'm looking at the thing. And it's like
You sound
It's
good.
fine, it's fine. Go ahead.
okay. So the beauty in Kiko Hiko's character is how he approaches the art versus Sukeroku, and a lot of this stems from season 1 if you haven't seen it, and how how Japan is supposed to approach the art, how the artist is supposed to approach art, and how the system in which art becomes the hierarchy of it affects the art. And as you see in season 1, Sukeroku, despite being talented and his very energetic approach and comedic approach to Rakugo, he is hindered by his inability to conform to the hierarchy. And that's a lot of the issues with season 1. That and Kikuhiko's inability to really appreciate the art until later in his life. Leaning into season 2, we see the continuation of Kikuhiko's character where he... Shut up. Sorry, I have someone else with me. Where what happens is he is trying to bring back the art, but he, versus Sukeroku, who is he's outside of the storytelling traditions for the audience. Kikuhiko keeps the art to himself. He finds it as something to perform to reach a certain quality. And you see that in Yotaro's character, where Yotaro leans more on the audience. He will do Rakugo for the sake of Rakugo. but he wants the audience to be able to appreciate it as well. Versus Hiko, who the art is him, and you see that in visual cues where Hiko's on the stage and then he does the Shimigami presentation, and the audience turns into candles, and it's only him on the stage. He isolates Rakugo to himself. He is doing it to perfect it for himself, not for the audience. And you see that throughout the show, where let's say Yotaro is trying to master one of the plays. I think it's the Saiheiji play, and what it is that in order to perform the play in Hiko's ideal is that you must be able to project your personality into the play, or else it's not a proper way to do it. But Yotaro breaks that mold. He goes against that idea and portrays Saiheiji as how the play should be able to present it. There are also things that come into play, such as Yotaro's relationship with Konatsu.
Konatsu, yeah.
Yeah, and the introduction of what's his name? He is the guy who's trying to introduce new plays into Rakugo, and he tries to make Yotaro do them. Can I get a name? Well,
we'll just call him the writer.
Yeah, let's just call him the writer. And that comes into play. And then as the story progresses, you start to see Hiko trying to there is a lot of tradition versus revolution in the second half of Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju. And what it is as you see Hiko trying to kill himself and say he wants to find the pinnacle of the art and then take it away. He wants to take it with him and die. And near the end, when he does his final Shimigami and then the fire happens in the theater, the aftermath of that is that he loses his voice and he finds as though he cannot perform anymore. And then we start to see that Yotaro is starting to be coerced by the writer to step up and make a revolution, make a change in the art. And then all these other things come into play with Konatsu, who later becomes the first woman to do Rakugo, and then televising Rakugo when he goes out to the schools and make it more kid-friendly, more entertaining. And then there is the reintroduction of the Kyoto style Rakugo with Mangatsu. No, I forgot his name. Let's just call him the Kyoto.
Mangetsu.
Yeah, Mangatsu. Okay, so
Mangetsu.
Okay, so him. So there's a lot of things going on. A lot of it comes down to the commentary of Rakugo and how it evolves as an art, and I think you can see it happen between other forms of art as well. But it works well in this because it's a little bit more niche and there's an actual history to it. I think the beauty comes in the fact of how it paces the story and how interesting Hiko is as a character and his portrayal in the story. I think the important thing to note at the end is how it all comes together, where tradition doesn't necessarily die, it still holds on. And the writer says this as well, is that things change in plays, where at one point in season 1, where erotic style Rakugo is no longer accepted, it's banned and no one uses it, and Hiko can't do that anymore. But then that later comes back in the later season, and it's a matter of the times. And I think to kind of sum it all up and to make sure I don't go on a tangent, is that Rakugo does an excellent job of portraying art as something that lives by the culture. It has its ups and downs, but it never truly dies. And Yotaro is the biggest example of that, in the fact that he encapsulates, in his whole family dynamic, he encapsulates what Rakugo is from the beginning of the show, from when the era of Sukeroku and Kikuhiko were just growing up and becoming Rakugo practitioners, to the end, where even Yotaro's son picks up not on the very energetic and comedic stylings that rely on the audience like Yotaro, but he leans more on Kikuhiko style, where it's not for the audience, but the art for the sake of the art. And there's a lot more
for the sake of the art, for the artist himself, instead of for the sake of the art, for the art itself.
The latter. I think I think a better way to put it would be that to find. I don't have a proper way to put it, but let's just say the latter of what you said, Chris. And I think that's my little rant on it for now. Anyone could jump on from there.
Yeah, Rakugo season 1 was a great Shakespearean tragedy of Kikuhiko's character, and season 2 just continues that, not exactly trend, but it takes that storyline and fast forwards the present day. There's a lot more stuff going on. There's all the business with Yotaro trying to modernize it, yet Kikuhiku trying to do a lover's suicide with the art of Rakugo, just like his closest friends in season 1. And just because of there being so many more elements to the whole ordeal, and Kikuhiku being a stubborn old man who has every right to be such, it just felt there was more. Like there was more stake to it, not just empathy for a cast of 2, but empathy for Kikuhiku, for Rakugo, for Konatsu, for Yotaro, and just having them all in this seeming conflicts, or rather challenge of the times of Kikuhiku, of Yotaro trying to keep Rakugo while Kikuhiku wants to suicide with it. It just feels more engaging in a way, more cerebral. So it's an improvement of season 1, and its commitment to being subtle and leaving every emotional issue as a subtext, yet talking about it openly, just adds to the feel of Rakugo as a human drama. And that's why it's probably one of the best shows of the entire year. Nothing else comes close to it. Comes close to it from this season, at least.
Cool. Well, it's good to hear that it's still going so strongly. What? I mean, I think everybody that would have or be on the dislike train for Rakugo has already gotten it out or talked about it from season 1.
Even if you don't enjoy Rakugo, it's just very easy to respect Rakugo for the show it is. There's nothing to actively dislike it for, which is really rare and very odd.
I don't know. I still think it's a little bit talky, and I couldn't get into the drama, but I think that may be a little more on me than it is on the show. I think everybody who's watched it has confirmed that it's a pretty good show. So I don't know if we need to talk about it any longer. I mean, we could be here all night. I just wanted to check that it was still going strong.
I was gonna say, just to actually defend your point, because Rush talks about this, and I've seen some other people online who tell me the same. Using Rakugo as a presentation style to deliver its themes or overall idea or relationship dynamics in the story at times may feel kind of off-putting, especially when it's kind of hard to engage or really have that eye for detail and what's going on in the Rakugo scenes, because there's a little bit of subtlety behind the Rakugo scenes that make it kind of hard to appreciate. Like Rush, for example, says that once the Rakugo scenes happen, he looks at it and he can't really discern what's beautiful about it. What like anyone could tell the voice acting is nice, and then the little bit of inflection behind the voices when he's playing between different characters is interesting. But at the same time, there's a little bit of an accessibility issue which allows you to appreciate it. And people will sing its praises and all that, and yes, it does it well. But in order to have the ear or the eye to notice it, it's kind of its own fault in a sense. It's not to say that it makes it bad, but it makes it harder to reach towards, or something along those lines. And I think it's a fair argument to make. And I think some people who try to say that, oh, it doesn't matter in that case, it's a little bit dismissive. It's like going into a fighting game and saying that execution doesn't stop people from enjoying the game, because it does.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, the Rakugo performances are very much an allegory for the character state.
And I think
So-
that's the only thing I wanted to say in terms of saying that Rakugo is hard to get into at times. The show at it. I mean,
Sure. Do you guys want to talk about March Comes in Like a Lion season 2, or
Okay, just to stop the segue, I gotta go. My roommate wants to sleep, and it's pretty fucking late here.
Yep.
I have no strong opinions against Sangatsu or Little Witch Academia, for and against them, so feel free to gush about them. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
rip.
So where you guys want to go next?
I haven't seen anything else besides the little bit of Sangatsu season, the second half of it at least. I've watched up to episode 17, and I think if you want to talk about that, I could talk against it a little bit and talk for it.
I've gotten up to episode 20.
I got the episode 3.
12.
Rip.
Is it more Sangatsu? He's that again. I only watched the first season of each, or first episode of each season, but it seemed like he was still doing what it was doing.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so to talk about Sangatsu, it is a character study, and we're looking at the main character Ray and his struggles, and it's a little bit nuanced in that sense, where you're mainly focusing on him and his character dynamics. The second half of the show attempts to create more character relationships between the people who are playing Rakugo, his family, quote unquote family, and man, and some other characters into play. I can't remember names, but the people who he plays against mostly. I think in a visual aspect, it is hit or miss at times for me. I think Jigs or Court will argue for it more than I would, but I like the Shaft interpretation in its direction, where it's very cut heavy. There's always some sort of beautiful color going on, but it gets so cut heavy where it takes away a lot of the emotional pull for certain scenes. I think and our end of the year anime discussion, we all agreed in some form that I think it was episode 10 or episode 11 where Ray has his emotional explosion, and it's very engaging because all this built up anger is finally released, and you kind of see what's going on in Ray's mind. It's very well done thematically. Don't get me wrong, but I think that the cutting takes away from that emotion because everything's always going back and forth with the cutting, and it's not letting you just hold that frame there, let the emotion play, and then really allow you to get absorbed. Because when I look at cutting, it's to create a sort of tension, and I don't think the tension works there. Anyone could argue against it. That, on my opinion, that's on them. Stylistically, the cutting works very well for the shogi matches, especially when they use a lot of very vivid, surreal animation. Like whenever, I think there's one match where there's a lot of like water elements to say that he's drowning and he's getting bogged up in a swamp or something. It's really engaging to do that visually. It puts you in the mindset of the character and gives you some sort of analogy to understand what's happening. Because you look at shogi and then you look at chess and it's like you get the idea, but you don't understand the pressure of what's going on there. Let's see, what else? It's a character study story. I think some people may not be engaged with it as well because the thing of character study, at least from what I see, is that you have to somehow be inherently interested in the character. And if you're not interested in the character from part 1, like once you get to maybe episode 6 and 7, when they start to do more character dynamics, I mean relationship dynamics, you start to wonder, okay, it's interesting to see how he interacts with this and how he interacts with what. But at the end of the day, it still comes back to the main character, and you have to be interested with that character in order for you to be interested in the show. And I think that's the argument for my against it, is its accessibility as well. But I think it's a really well done show in what it does. The cutting gets a little bit in the way at times. Other people may find it more enjoying. I wish the camera was more tame one scene that is done really well where they're kind of tame with the cutting is when he fights. He does the shogi match against the old man, and then the old man loses, and they go out drinking, and then they're at the pier, and the old man's just like, man, he's depressed, but they cut just enough, and they hold the camera just enough to really capture that emotion there. And then the use of color and the watercolors and all that is really nice. I haven't read the manga yet, but from what I've been told, the manga and the anime have two different ways of presenting the story in terms of tone and direction. So it's up to whoever's listening to want to check out both and make a judgment from there if they're interested enough in making a judgment. That's that.
I don't know if I agree with the cutting being distracting for the emotions or whatever, because I think the use of so many like really close-ups on the faces sort of counterbalance that, because you get to see there's a lot of moments like Mushishi-esque like close-ups, I would say, where you see the close-up to the face of the character and then like just slight subtle animations to change their facial expressions.
Oh, I could see that. I think it's a matter of me just having a specific style that I lean towards, that it kind of affects me, because then it's a matter of how you, as you said, it balances out nice, but I guess I would just prefer if the camera was still more tame, and that's a matter of preference to me now. As I said before, the cutting in itself, I still enjoy the style because you don't see that often in anime. Just constantly cutting in order to create some kind of feeling for the scene.
Yeah, I think when you talked about like, I think Shaft does that a lot more too. Just maybe Shimbo influence. I don't know. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Hey, cool. Anybody? That seems like a good rundown of what Sangatsu no Lion is. You know, it's a character study on this guy, and if you're into that, if you're into this guy's philosophy, into exploring this guy's point of view, like, go for it. I think it's well regarded overall.
It's not really so much about his like worldview or anything like that. It's just like a story about, I don't know. It's not his worldview. It's just like him as a person.
That was bait, Tom. That was bait. Don't
Yeah, I
take
know
it.
it was bait.
Yeah,
Guy's
okay.
just
Don't
being
take
a
it.
dickhead.
We know.
Blake,
Time to talk
what have you been watching this season? I haven't heard your voice in forever.
Me?
Yeah, what are you watching this season?
Oh, I really only finished Rewrite, and you're using. I'm almost done with that.
Do you have anything you want to say about Rewrite?
It's always hard to talk about it.
Wait, was that this season?
Because,
Season 2 was.
Yeah, the season 2 was this season.
Apparently, season 2 is a lot better.
Oh yeah, Super Lovers too.
Yeah, it's better. I mean, the problem with it, I guess, now that people know more about like stuff like this, is like it's about as hard to talk about as like Nier Automata, if that makes sense. Like people just don't want to talk about it because you spoil the whole thing.
Yeah. Wait, is this the anime original stuff or?
No. This season was like the visual novel.
Okay. I think I'm just gonna play the visual novel instead eventually.
Yeah, probably. I mean, wait for the Steam release, I guess. Yeah, I would describe it. It's like a combination of humanity has declined with Ghost in the Shell. So it has comedy and it gets weird.
Yeah,
So,
I like
yeah,
both of those. So.
Yeah, I mean, it also has like the character designs that look like all other key visual novels. So everything is ugly as fuck.
The bug eyes.
Yeah, the bug eyes, the antennas, like they're cockroaches and they behave like humans. But it's good though. It's very good.
How's the pacing? Because
It's slow. It has 3 different writers and one of them is a hack. He's terrible, and he wrote To Roots. The other one is the Higurashi writer. So you're gonna get Higurashi.
Wasn't it him and Romeo or whatever?
Yeah, and Romeo, the third one is Romeo,
Okay.
he's the lead writer, and he wrote like the first Roots, and then no, the first one, and then the last one.
All right. Well, I'll power through it whenever it comes out, I guess.
Yeah, the comedy is very hit or miss. If you don't like the comedy, you won't be able to finish it. If you do, you'll back through it because it's hilarious. It comes down to you being able to take the comedy as it comes.
Okay. So
Yeah, I
Alright,
mean,
well,
and
next.
again, like the anime, if you're never gonna read the visual novel, the anime, like I hate it, but you should watch it if you're not gonna touch the visual novel.
Okay.
Right? Like you should experience it, and you won't love it, but at least you'll have that.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, all right. One of the shows I wanted to talk about, and I don't know if anybody actually finished this, was Urara Maid no Cho.
I finished
Yes.
it. Urara
Oh, you did?
Show was great.
Yeah, yeah. I only watched the first 5 episodes, but from what I watched, I really thought it had a lot of heart. It wasn't really a standout in its genre, but did it carry through all the way?
It actually got pretty good. Of all the cute girls this season, I thought this was the second best cute girl show after Kimono Friends. What I liked about it was how it synthesized the traditional cute girl doing cute things sort of formula, but it also added in like an actual plot.
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
So I didn't think it did that very well. That's why I dropped it. But I like the plot elements more than the cute girl stuff. And usually I don't have a problem with cute girl stuff, so it just wasn't engaging for me. Sorry.
How's the comedy?
It's hit or miss, I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah.
I laughed at points, but it had the really awkward thing where it was like it was too sexual for its nature. I do think. Like I don't usually like get put off by that stuff, but
Yeah,
oh
it
my
could have been
God,
done better.
it
Yeah.
was a lot.
But to those moments, those plot moments you're talking about, I remember specifically in episode 2, I think it was, when she tries to jump the gate in their town with like different levels in it and consecutive layers that you have to go through the hard work of becoming a fortune teller on level 1 before you can go to level 2, and only level 2s are allowed inside this part of the town. And then she just wants to skip it and go find her mom, who's somewhere in the higher levels of the town. And then there's actually like a scene about, this decision and what that would mean. And she's, are you willing to make yourself an outlaw and throw away a potential nice life here just to find your mom that much faster? And it was, even though it was mostly cute girls doing cute things, it did have that heart in just about every episode.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do think as it went on, it figured out what it was doing, and it really hit its stride, I would say. And I would say the last like 4 or 5 episodes were actually like really heavy on the plot, and it mostly ironed everything out. Like the sexualization went way, way down, and what was there actually felt a lot more poignant, and they canonized 2 of the relationships. So
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was also it's just a really interesting setting and everything. I don't know if I could ever recommend this to anyone for a variety of reasons, but
Yeah.
I really liked it, and I'm actually reading the manga now. So
Anybody hate it?
I thought the first
kind of
episode was
boring.
horrifically dull.
Yeah.
I watched the first 2 episodes. I liked the first one, and then the second one, I was kind of bored. It was kind of disappointing, I guess, because I love the art.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, but I don't know if I want to finish it. It depends on the comedy, honestly.
Yeah, it was kind of boring.
Yeah. I think
But
so.
it wasn't bad.
Yeah. I think if you can get over that initial hump of this is what this show's gonna be, then yeah, you find something to enjoy there. All right, moving on. Going through the list here, seeing if there's anything that I heard people talking about that we really want to bring up. Anyone else have anything?
Did you guys talk about Jojo Senki?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I missed that then. Wait, did everyone hate it here?
No,
Okay.
I would have talked about. Yeah, there wasn't much to say.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's. I would recommend it. I mean, a lot of people won't like it, but it seems well received.
Yeah. And we.
Onihei was pretty cool. It was a detective drama, except the main character is Samurai Yoshikage Kira, and if you like that, it's a pretty good one. It's better than any of the other detective dramas recently. So.
Hearing not
Yeah,
so
it was
good.
alright.
Hearing not so good things about Kira, Pretty Cure. So.
Do any of us look like we watch Precure?
Hey man, you were talking about Komodo friends. Don't even go there. Don't
Precure got some pretty.
Yeah, if
be
anyone
that
here would like
person.
Pretty Cure, it would be Contessa. Like, I think.
Yeah.
No, I've thought about watching Precure actually. So.
Was that
Precure got some
Neno?
good-
Nenoha show last season? That wasn't.
Yeah.
No, that was 2 seasons ago, and that
Oh,
was
God.
Vivid Strike.
Vivid Strike, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
that was
that
2
was-
seasons ago.
Yeah, I want to watch that. Like, especially with the hype about the movie. Did you watch the trailer, by the way?
I did, yeah. I was into it. Yeah. So
Oh, yeah,
let's watch it when it
it's
comes
so
out.
good.
Like,
So I want to watch Vivid Strike now. I'm in the Nanoha mood now.
did anyone watch Chaos Child?
No, God, why?
No,
No.
why would anybody watch that?
Okay.
No, from what I heard from the people who read the visual novel, it's bad. Like, you shouldn't touch it.
All right.
Like, it spoils the visual novel. I guess if you're not reading it, then who cares?
I mean, I heard Chaos Head, the anime was bad, and then I heard the visual novel's not much better. I think Gene said that.
Oh wait,
so-
really? No, I heard it's like the best of the series. Like universally considered better than like even Steins Gate. You think Chaos? No, wait, Chaos Head. Yeah, no, we were talking about Chaos Child. I get confused.
Yeah, no, I was
Yeah,
saying
no.
Chaos Head. I wasn't done.
Yeah,
I was like,
Chaos Head.
Child's the sequel.
Yeah, sorry. Chaos Head, like the visual novel, not a lot of people like it, but Chaos Child is like super good.
Cool.
Yeah, it's confusing a
What?
little bit.
I
But
guess.
the new one is Chaos Child, and that one is very good. The source material apparently,
But not the anime.
and not the anime. No, that one sucks. I think.
All right, we're done with that.
We have covered
Alright.
everything this season, unless somebody has anything else they want to bring up, except for the elephant in the room. And
Where the
that's
fuck
there's-
is
Yanko
Spain?
There's
Days?
still Iron Blooded
Super
Orphans.
Buffalo?
Wait,
Yeah,
what?
Iron
What
Blooded
else?
Yanko Days, right?
I don't think there are any other shows.
You mean Yanko Days?
Yeah, I think we should probably just wrap this one up.
How was the
I
new
heard
Ghost in the
nothing
Shell
more-
movie, guys?
There's
Did
definitely
anyone go
nothing
see
more
the new
worthwhile
Ghost
to
in the
talk
Shell
about
movie?
from this season?
What about Yanko Days though?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that might be worth talking about actually.
Wait, no, I think did you guys talk about handshakers?
We
yeah, we
did talk about
Oh,
it.
god damn it.
You missed it, Blake.
I missed it.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
What
It's
about One Room?
oh, one room. That even that creeps me out. Like nothing creeps me out, but that creeps me out.
oh. What about Siren? I watched the first episode of that. It looked real bad.
I heard it was like all the issues of a manga.
Are you about to just dip down there?
It's
yeah,
a
except like
deconstruction.
worse.
Yeah.
And like he has all these weird kinks and
Oh boy.
To be honest with
He
you,
gets
I actually got stuck
hard
for like a while.
in
Yeah, but again, we didn't watch,
I
so we
Oh,
will never know.
Boy. All right. Let's talk about it. This season we
yeah,
had
Gundam,
what are we
Iron
talking
Blood
about?
Orphans, Gundam.
Alright,
I haven't seen it. Yet.
memes.
All right, I'm leaving. Bye.
Little Witch
Okay,
Academia
somehow
aired,
that-
guys. Guys,
that terrible
Little
show.
Witch
Okay.
Academia, the TV series from the OVA, from the Japanese young animators project, and then the Enchanted Parade, the Kickstarter. The
Kai, let's not get too
Trigger
excited here.
made a
Pretty
full
good.
series
Pretty good.
of Little Witch Academia, and it's the
I haven't
story of.
finished it yet.
I like how
I
Kai is
mean,
I'll
the
leave.
the last
Go ahead.
episode comes out tomorrow. We're not gonna spoil it.
Oh, I mean, I've watched up to like 7 or something.
I've watched
Yeah, me
episode
too. I watched up to 6 or 5.
I'm current on it, so
Yeah, me too. So this is the story of Akko, a non-magical.
Okay, can we stop
child.
with
Alright,
the
we
fucking
don't
plot
need the
summary? Have we done a plot
summary.
summary for any other of these shows?
It's like magic. Good. Cool.
Kai just feels the need to fillet his own LWA dick. About how much he
I'll
likes this
fillet it if he
show.
wants to. I lean on that side.
She enrolls in a magical academy.
Oh my god,
and
Kai, stop.
That's the
Nobody
plot of
wants
the
to
show.
talk
She wants
Oh,
about
he's done. He's
fucking
done.
summary.
Everyone's seen it.
I mean, come on,
Shut
let
up,
him
Tom,
talk.
he's done.
That's why he likes it. It has a plot and it's simple to follow. So he needs
I
to
think
talk
the
about.
plot is an important part of the character motivations.
Yeah, I know. I'm being a dick. I know why you. Why you want
Okay.
to-
That show's pretty good.
So anyway, boy, I don't know. You guys want to talk about it? Or you're gonna let me go on about it?
Oh god, someone talk
Um,
about
Moose,
it.
don't
Okay,
want to
I-
let you go on about it.
I'll save
No,
us.
go-
Don't worry. Or play
Okay.
if you want to save us. Go ahead.
No, I want him to talk as much as he
Fuck.
can about it.
No, Jesus. No, we do not want to let
Okay,
Kai talk about
so
it.
Little Witch Academia is a show that tries very hard, and it's very much a I would say peak era Cartoon Network cartoon.
Sure.
In as much as there's not much continuity, there's not much going on between episodes. There's just each episode takes a little premise and it makes it fun. Where it fails is in Akko is a giant dick ass for the first 10 episodes of the series, and she's honestly like straight up awful at points. And it goes beyond comedic idiocy, comedic jerk-assness into like just she needs someone to sit down and slap her a couple times and say, hey, get your act together. Once you get to episode 11, near the end, she starts changing a little, but it doesn't feel particularly earned by that point. And I know Kai is going to jump all on this.
Yeah, I
but,
couldn't disagree more. But go ahead.
Otherwise, if you can buy the central conceit of the episodic, if you like SpongeBob or Dexter's Lab or any of that, yeah, you'll probably like Little Witch Academia. And there's a couple
That's
pretty
underselling
solid
it. Those are entirely episodic though, and Little Witch Academia does have a continuous plot, and it does have continuous character growth, and it does have an arc, and just a general world building, and continuity to it that those shows don't. But there is a
Hold
heavy.
on. Does it?
Yeah,
Do
it
the
doesn't.
characters really
I mean,
change that much?
Yes.
I mean, like they have moments where like they get to a point and they're just like, oh, like you have. I'm thinking about like that episode where like Akko like goes to the fountain and realizes that like she's not quite good enough yet. But that's like that doesn't really change anything about what she actually does.
So
Like she's still
let me explain it to
basically,
you. So in the beginning of the series, Akko is obviously stubborn in her pursuit of being like her model shiny chariot, and she throws away a lot of things, or kind of lets a lot of things fall by the wayside in pursuit of that. And yeah, that's, as Contessa says, kind of dickish. And she is, not thinking about others. She's not adhering to social norms because she's so pigheaded in her pursuit of Shiny Chariot and the ideal of becoming what Shiny Chariot is. So yes, that is something that happens for those first 6 episodes, until she finds really the fountain, and then realizes that being Shiny Chariot is about more than just becoming Shiny Chariot. And then I think the edge falls off of her a lot, where she's still very stubborn in how she approaches things, but she realizes it may be more. And I think the role of Ursula, the teacher in the show, is kind of teaching her to become something, or teaching her that there is something more to becoming Shiny Chariot than just the glamour of it all.
I would believe that if Ursula was anything more than just like non-existent. So
She's got a big role in the series, especially later on, where she's very passive in the beginning. She is, and I think that's why the episode 7 outburst when she talks to Professor Finnegan or gets in her face about it, is that her reawakening that, and the later episodes too charge her a little bit more with this responsibility, which she takes a little bit more seriously.
See, I
So
thought that outburst was really out of left field. Didn't really seem that in character. But then again, Ursula doesn't really do anything, so.
see, I had no issue with the outburst, but I think it to say that she takes a more proactive role afterward is more or less incorrect. For a supposed mentor student sort of relationship like the two have, they don't talk to each other very much, and they don't actually like impart any knowledge or anything towards each other. They, in the few scenes they have, it's usually Akko doing something and failing, and then Ursula's just sort of there, and she's like, "Yep,
But
you
they
should
do,
listen to me, Akko."
that's like not true. Like episode 11 had this whole scene or a
We are
continuing
speaking.
ongoing scene.
We are speaking pre-11 because that's where the plot started. So
I think in the other series, in the other shows, in those first couple episodes, you have her attempting to give Akko a little extra help, and then Akko blowing her off repeatedly. And
What?
what do you mean what?
Well,
That
she
happens in the
But
show.
not
She
really. Like, what
she
does she
says,
do?
Do you want examples from each episode? There's the one where she's carrying the books and she says, "Let's study, Akko," and then Akko, runs off with some idea in her head. There's the one where she's like, "Oh, you guys have to go to detention with Professor and Ursula," and then gets there, and there's the whole scene of Akko skipping out on detention. That happens almost every episode, and we can go episode by episode in this, but it's like a huge thing, and just saying it doesn't happen is just wrong.
I think you're overstating the impact of it. I
Yeah.
think that's more the complaint. It's not that it doesn't happen. It's like it's not as impactful as you make it out to be.
And more importantly,
Yeah.
Ursula's doesn't really do anything that like I wouldn't expect like any random teacher to do.
I
Like,
don't
she's
know.
never going
Past
above and beyond.
She's invested.
I think when Akko sees the stuff in the fountain, and then Ursula has that outburst on episode 7, the relationship does meaningfully change. In that Ursula takes it a bit more personal, Akko's success, and I think you can see that manifested in the episodes through 8, 9, 10, and 11. That's really a huge part of the show. So saying that it doesn't happen is like, that kind of bothers me.
I don't think it necessarily changes too much in episodes 7 through 10. I mean, 2 of those episodes literally don't involve Ursula at all.
That's fair.
And the other one shows her trying to teach Akko something, but Akko is not paying attention and actually trying at all. And then she immediately goes and does stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then episode 11, you have the actual accumulation of Akko. It's a kind of a slow burn in that Akko doesn't really realize the value of Ursula. She even spoilers, but the events of episode 11 when was that 10? I guess that when she goes to Ursula's room. And that's kind of this moment where she's like, "Oh, you were a schoolmate with Shiny Chariot, right?" And just not even the fact that she's got it wrong and that she's literally speaking to her idol, but more the fact that she doesn't. She wants to use Ursula to get at Shiny Chariot instead of valuing Ursula as somebody who can teach her things. Akko's not entirely there yet. And man, I can see how that would be super frustrating that she doesn't understand it in full yet. She knows, however, it's not just this blind pursuit of the Shiny Chariot ideal that's going to get her where she wants to be. And all those flashbacks from the fountain in the 2 episodes where she visits the fountain really show that. I think there's also a large part of it that's the relationship with Diana and Susie and Lot, and a lot of these, and maybe the other minor characters too, that the show has been, through its episodic nature, been taking the time to explore, and to varying degrees of success. I don't think a lot's been really given her due. She had her episode, but like the Susie episode is just astounding. It's one of my favorite episodes in any anime ever. It was pure Trigger at its best, and yeah, I think that you have a little bit of inconsistency in just what occurs in the episodic nature of things because of just generally the way it felt really Kill la Kill. So I'd have to attribute it to Trigger. Like some of these episodes have a really clear idea of where they're going and how they're getting there, and then other episodes are kind of, minor distractions along the way that do in some way contribute.
Can we talk about that
I
Susie episode? Like,
Yeah.
to me, like something like Luluco is Trigger at its best, but I really like. Can you said it was astounding? Can we get more
Yeah.
like what makes it astounding?
Oh
Because I
my
really feel like it's
God.
one off.
Okay, so the premise of the Susie episode is that they go inside, or Akko goes inside Susie's mind. Susie is put to sleep in like a Sleeping Beauty situation. Akko uses magic to go inside her unconscious mind and encounters a ton of versions of Susie that she learns never get to see the light of day because they're repressed by Susie's I don't know, what do you want to say, like who Susie wants to be. She consciously ignores some of her feelings. Like she encounters a Susie within Susie's mind that says, "Oh, I want to be the Susie that wants to go out and have dates with boys," or "I want to be the Susie that reads Nightfall," or "I want to be the Susie that drives a fast car," or all these other crazy things that don't really fit what we know Susie's personality to be. And Akko, because she's eternally honest with herself, kind of comes in and says, "No, you have to be true to yourself, and these are all parts of who Susie is, and you shouldn't hide them and repress them." And takes actions within Susie's unconscious to kind of make that happen. And in this way, she learns that there's more to Susie than the outside. And then on the inverse of that, we see and just the conceit of this. They do a drive-in movie theater, and there's a video that plays of Susie's version of the events of Little Witch Academia. And it's all like cartoony, like Mickey Mouse in some places, and the animation style changes to like a Bishoujo romance type thing, and all this, all these liberal kind of stylistic things that are really quintessentially Trigger. But it gets at the fact that, and then Akko sees that Susie fondly remembers them meeting in episode 1, and holds it in high regard, and actually values what Akko does. And man, when that happens, and when Akko finally realizes that Susie actually does appreciate her in that way, man, that's a completely different dynamic that they've used the fantasy of the show to set up this situation where the characters can understand more about each other. It was magnificent, and it was fun the whole way through too, with all the devil sushi and the angel sushi, and man, yeah, that episode, good God.
I mean, you mostly just gave us a plot summary. I agree that the movie theater scene is
No, I'm talking
good.
about that's not no. I mean no. The idea was that the show used the fantasy to get the characters to understand each other better, and that's what this part of Little Witch Academia is clearly about.
Okay, so what changed before that episode and after that episode with Susie and Akko's relationship? Because I didn't feel like we saw many changes in Susie afterwards,
Sure,
despite them reaching
sure.
this newer understanding.
No, I get that. Yeah, and I think you're gonna be waiting on that for a little while longer. I think it's more just justifying that Susie would kind of go along with everything, and they haven't really cashed in on it yet. But I can't see anything other than when Akko is down and out, and then somehow the value of Susie's, person contributes to Akko's eventual success. That not being the meaningful touchstone, I'm just saying it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, but I mean, you're saying the episode's already outstanding. I'm just kind of
Yeah.
If it was like if this change had already occurred, that like if the payoff had already happened, I might agree maybe, but
Yeah.
I just don't see like what makes it. I just don't see it. Like you say, it's Trigger at its best, and I'm thinking, well, Luluco did all that and more. So what makes this the best?
It's much more drawn out than Luluco. I mean, Luluco got there pretty quick.
Is that a good thing? Is drawn out good?
And we can talk pacing problems, like some episodes, like.
I mean, I wasn't asking for pacing problems, but I'm really asking. You're saying it's more drawn out. I'm asking, well, why does that make it better?
In the content, or I don't think it necessarily makes it better. I think the shows are trying to do different things, and Luluco is very focused on that idea of first love and the value of first love and making it meaningful. But Little Witch Academia, it's very, I can't help but see it in the context of a magical girl show, where when like the things happen in something like Cardcaptor Sakura or Sailor Moon, and the big climax happens, and all the friends fight for the thing, and friendships are tried. All of the impact of those moments comes from the moments where they built up the relationships before that, and it's kind of saying like, well, we don't have that payoff yet, and then Luluco gave us that payoff in so many minutes of screen time. Well, I think when they get up there and say, and Akko has touched all of our lives here today, and we really appreciate you and value what you did, Akko, and then like you got to say that's going to be emotionally powerful because of what happens in these episodes. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I see how that could work. I don't think I'm going to agree I'm going to find it as powerful, but it's more, you're saying it's outstanding now, but when you ask you why, you're saying, well, something that might happen. So I'm asking, like, I'm trying to see, like, why is it already outstanding?
Yeah, it's outstanding setup. That not only is that Susie episode completely so much fun to watch, just on a purely visceral level with what goes on, but that I'm recognizing it's setting up these moments, and not just being a visceral experience, but also being one where we can talk about these characters and their appreciation for each other, and showing that as something that's meaningful and that the show wants to talk about. That doing that and couching that within the plot is harder than it looks, and I've seen a lot of shows kind of fail at that.
Well, I mean, the failings of other shows doesn't make this one necessarily better, right? I mean, there's plenty of shows that have succeeded on that too.
Okay, so it looks like the shows that have succeeded in that when they do that.
Well, no, what I'm more saying is, I don't know, like, you're saying this is the best show Trigger has made. And I'm thinking, well,
yeah, I think I'd make that claim. Yeah.
Okay, well, okay, you said it's Trigger at its best. Or
Yeah,
so that's
yeah,
the
that
lead
is
into the
specifically the Susie episode. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I guess I just don't see it. Like to me, I feel like Luluco did it better. I feel like Kill la Kill didn't really do the same thing, but
It did.
I would
It.
consider parts of Kill la Kill better.
I mean, the themes in Kill la Kill were the same, right? Of the, you value the experiences you have and the people that you meet, and
That's
I don't think
When-
that's
like a million different.
when they have the naked hug at the end, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's earned because of all the other things that have happened. That's what I'm saying, and it seems like you're saying, well, there's no naked hug yet, so I can't validate it. I'm like,
no. I just don't like. I'm not really sold on why the build-up's so good. Like, I mean, I agree. Like, I agree with your summary of it. I just
Yeah.
don't see how that makes it outstanding. I'm asking, like, if there's more to this.
I'm wondering what else you're looking for. Having these clear and present themes, and then going about them in the right way is all that I was expecting for the show. And
I don't think it's about expectations. I mean, I guess you found the episode a lot more fun than I did. Maybe that's the core difference here.
it definitely was. Yeah, and I'm so very much, and this is kind of why I wanted to talk about this, is that I'm so very much on board with the concept that they're going for, and the idea of Akko learning the value of what it means to be someone who makes people happy. And not just blindly run at something, but learn to value the experiences she has along the way, but still keep that determination that makes her who she is. That's a conceit that I'm completely behind, and I don't. It's been done so well that I don't have any problems with it in either intent or execution. That's not no problems. I have some minor problems, but
maybe we'll bench this until the whole show is aired. I think that might be a better time to.
Sure, and
because it seems like so much of this is based on the.
And it's also the fact that it is a two-core show too, and it's moving at that pace. Like if it were something else, if it were a different show, then it would have to cut episodes like the skeleton that they interact with, and all these little adventures, and that would be, I don't know, maybe good, maybe bad, but once all of Little Witch Academia is aired in summer season, at the end of summer season, then yeah, I'm going to talk in those climax moments and in those plot-driven moments about how it's talking about the relevancy of these values that Akko learned in these episodes, or that she showed other people to. And I do kind of acknowledge too that before this aired, I could have told you that this was probably going to be my anime of the year, just because of what I know about it and from the OVAs and stuff. And they would have to kind of mess it up and forget the objectives, or not execute well enough to really mess it up and throw it off course. But they didn't. And I understand that what I'm looking for in a TV show may not be the same as what other people are looking for, but I'm looking for exactly what this show is giving, and it is certainly giving it. So I can
Yup.
I can keep talking about Little Witch Academia.
Oh, I'm sure you can.
I
don't
Please
think
don't,
anyone
though.
absolutely can.
Yeah, I have them muted. It looks like.
It was yeah, it's what else is there to say? I've done I did
say, but you're not really interested.
yeah, and it motivated me to do
Oh my
things
God, he
like
just said yes. Okay.
okay.
Wow.
It motivated
No, it's
me
just lyrics.
to
No, I'm gonna take some time to do a bit of pontificating, Kai, because the way that you like, you're basically just saying that you like the show because you like it. Like you said already that like if like this show would have had to have like actively messed things up for it to not be your favorite show of the year.
yeah.
So like I don't know, like you're not gonna convince anybody with that.
Or to the point where I've done 3
Well,
videos
no,
now
to the point where you have you've like made it a part of like your personality that you like Little Witch Academia, and to the point where like when people start saying bad things about it, you're personally hurt. It just makes it really hard
it's
to
not
talk about
gone that far. I don't think it's gone that far.
$20 says that he has a Little Witch Academia tattoo already.
Oh man, I should though. I should.
Yeah, see?
But no, to the point where I've been motivated to make 3 videos about the directing in Little Witch Academia and why it's been great, like going shot by shot. And this is a type of show where you can actually say, and not every episode, I think some are lower quality than other episodes, but specifically there's like the extreme skill in what Yo-Yo Shinari is doing here. And the shot composition, conveying the emotions, leaving anime cliches in the dust in the way that only Trigger can. Man, it's gonna be on Netflix. It's gonna have such a broad appeal. I don't think you could just say, well, you really like it. Yeah, I do. I like shows like this. I certainly do. But I think the broader scope of it is that this is a unique show for a lot of reasons, and it's a well-crafted one too.
The atmosphere and execution is really good.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it gives a Western vibe off. It gives you know, anime Harry Potter.
I hope Kimono Friends gets dubbed and put on Netflix and destroys Little Witch Academia.
Yeah, so do I. I don't even dislike Little Witch Academia, but
No, I like Little Witch Academia too, but I think Kimono Friends would be much more valuable.
Well, man, just even down to like the character designs, man. Even
they are very
Jeez.
90s era cartoon.
Yeah, and the way it kind of mixes in cartoony elements with stuff. Man, I guess that's a discussion more for
It's really entertaining.
for
Yeah,
anime.
like I said, this is a 90s cartoon. If you like 90s cartoons, you'll like Little Witch Academia. There you go. You want
Yeah, it's a 90s cartoon with some really tangible values. Yeah, sure.
I mean, a lot of the 90s cartoons had tangible values too. So
When you say something like Dexter's Lab, it didn't. Like maybe the Ego Trip movie, but nah. Anyway, I'm done. That's yeah. Unless you want me to keep going, stop.
no,
please,
please
no.
stop.
Nothing could be worse.
What happened?
Well, I think that's all of the season.
Nope, we're missing one thing.
Oh no.
We're missing the winter season 2017 for hentai. Anyways, I just wanted to say that. Go ahead.
I mean, you guys can talk about IBO and I can leave.
What, Iron Blooded Orphans? I watched that. It's not particularly good.
I just wanted to talk shit about it, but I don't even care anymore.
I mean, the nice thing is that I still haven't finished it, but at least it's like going bad for the main characters. Like they're finally getting their due. I'm just wondering if it's actually going to stick to it in these like last 2 episodes I haven't watched.
So you want to wrap it up, or we got anything
Yeah.
else to talk about? Yeah, it's been a while.
Everyone watch Komodo Friends. That's the season.
The anime of the season, Komodo Friends. All right. Do we? What do you think about the season overall? I thought it was pretty strong.
It was better than I expected. It
Yeah.
obviously wasn't as strong as the season before it, but otherwise it had high highs and low lows. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
They had many good shows overall.
Yeah, I think most of them were more in the 7, 8, or 6 to 8 range, as opposed to the 9 to 10 range. And obviously, there's like 12 different shows you can talk about that are all like 1s, 2s, 3s. So
Yeah, 9, 10s are rare.
And then looking forward, what do you guys got for next season? What's your
Choten Kazoku, and otherwise I can screw it.
Yeah,
Centric
pretty much
Family?
just do Shoten.
My Hero Academia.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. The big thing I'm excited about this is going to be Samurai Jack. Like those first 2 episodes of it kick
Sorry,
ass.
this is an anime podcast.
I agree though.
I mean, it's your.
I don't remember what else is coming up.
Oh, Sakura Quest. That's kind of like Shirobako, but not Shirobako.
I dislike that on principle.
Sure.
Well, Rush likes it, so.
When does the Cardcaptor Sakura season come out?
Next year.
Next year? Oh,
Winter 2018, yeah.
oh, kill me.
Listen, we all just need to get through this season so we can get to next season, and Symphogear will carry us home.
Wait, is Symphogear summer?
Yes.
Yes! I'm ready! Oh, and then that's when the Nanoha movie comes out too. All right. That's winter 2017. Thanks for watching. We'll have to do some stuff for the new season.
I'm
But
interested to see how this season goes.
Same.
I just want to talk about Samurai Jack right now because I freaking love that show.
Stop
Once we're done with this, of
the
course.
stream. All right, stopping the stream.